Chapter 469. After Yihua and Qingye finished washing up, Yihua carried his daughter and walked downstairs. Shi Tingting had already prepared a sumptuous breakfast. This alien ate quite tastefully. There were food that flew in the sky, walked on the ground, and swam in the water. Thinking back to himself, it was really easy to get rid of him with just a Chinese jianbing. Why aren't you two eating? Yihua asked faintly. Dong Huangli sat beside her father and placed some food on her father's plate. With a smile on her face, Dong Huangli said, "Mommy and I woke up a long time ago, we are already full." "Even your daughter said that you are lazy," Qingye teased. Yihua shook his head. "I have to set a good example and be a good father." "Okay, tomorrow, Ali will wake Papa up. Let's go jogging together." "That's great," Dong Huangli clapped her hands, and her face was brimming with happiness. Shi Tingting, who was serving them by the side, felt very helpless. "Couldn't you guys be a little more nervous? This was a big matter. If others were to find out that you guys had a Cosmos Divine weapon on you guys would be done for." Moreover, she was certain that the imperial capital was also making a move. "Shi Tingting, what did you say just now?" Yihua asked curiously. Shi Tingting felt that she could finally talk about it. With a nervous tone she said, "Mister, your Cosmos Divine weapon has been exposed. Many people have come here today, and all of them are here to look for the Cosmos Divine weapon. The imperial capital might send people here as well. And this house of yours is a bit small. Go and buy a manor, the bigger the better. You can spend the money however you want." Yihua felt that he wouldn't be able to finish spending the money, so he should just spend it however he wanted. "Sir, I've bought it." Shi Tingting was already in despair. How could it be another topic again? But in this place, as long as you have money, you can buy anything quickly. Yihua was still very satisfied with Shi Tingting's ability to handle matters. Being an agent of Blue Blaze Planet is pretty good. "After we finish eating, we will go and take a look," Yihua said faintly. Right after Yihua finished speaking, a petite figure landed outside the door and knocked on the door. Shi Tingting walked forward and opened the door. It was Brett from yesterday. Brett walked to Yihua's side and said respectfully, "Your Honor." "Are you done?" Yihua asked faintly. "It's done." Brett nodded. "Then let's sit down and eat something. We'll go out and see the house later." "Yes. These two are my wives and she is my child," Yihua introduced unhurriedly. Brett was very astonished. His Honor actually has a wife and a child? Isn't this a bit too ridiculous? "Honorable Madam Little Honorable," Brett hurriedly greeted. This was the first time that Qingye and Donghuang Baiji had been called by someone in such a way, and they were a bit not used to it. However, they still smiled and agreed to it. Dong Huangli looked at Brett curiously. She thought to herself, Brett shouldn't be much older than me, right? Why is she also Daddy's subordinate? Papa is using child labor. Aunt Yi is also a child labor. If Yi Zizi knew that she was called a child laborer, she would definitely explode with joy. Brett was different from the others. He was always serious and unsmiling. Yihua sent a sound transmission over to Brett. "Ask him what exactly is going on. Why did you suddenly become a child?" It turned out that after Brett died, he did not return to his original appearance. Instead, he turned into a baby, as if he had come back to life. Yihua, who received this news, nodded his head. "I feel that this matter is fishy. This is too strange." For the safety of the other two subordinates, Yihua gave up on the principle of not searching for them, and searched for their location. The result that he obtained was very shocking. They were still in their original world. Why didn't the two of them appear in other worlds? Strange, this is too strange. However, this is also very interesting. After I settle the matters on Earth, I will go back and ask them about it. "Daddy, what should I call Brett?" Dong Huangli asked curiously. "I just call her Aunt." "But Aunt Brett is only a bit older than Ali. It is very impolite to call her Aunt," Dong Huangli said doubtfully. Brett was also very gloomy. "I am still a child right now. How can I be called Aunt? His Honor is really messing around. Little Honorable is right." Brett and Yi Zizi address each other as sisters. "Ali, what do you think I should call you?" Yihua said indifferently. Dong Huangli understood, then obediently shouted out, "Aunt Brett." Brett was very hurt. It would be good if I can grow up quickly. I really hate this head of white hair. My black hair looks much better. Yihua felt that Brett's white hair looked rather good, so he ordered Brett not to change it. He was already sick of it in the past. Brett didn't expect that his honor would even care about the color of his hair. The supreme overlord is even caring about his subordinate's private life. This is what a qualified manager should do. Your Honor, Zhu Tian? Brett couldn't help but inquire about Zhu Tian's news. How could Yihua not know what Brett meant by that? Yihua is truly chasing after Zhu Tian relentlessly. However, Zhu Tian doesn't seem to be interested in Brett. Zhu Tian is quite good, Yihua said. Donghuang Baiji smiled. Zhu Tian isn't just an ordinary good person, he already has 2 wives. Yihua gave Donghuang Baiji a meaningful glance. In the past, the reason why Zhu Tian rejected Brett was because he doesn't like women. Right now, Zhu Tian used his actions to slap his own face, which also means that he lied to Brett. Sure enough, upon hearing that Zhu Tian already has 2 wives, Brett's expression immediately changed, and a powerful anger immediately ignited within him. Yihua felt helpless. This Brett is just like an explosive, she will ignite at any moment. Perhaps, Zhu Tian doesn't like this point of hers. Donghuang Baiji realized that she said the wrong thing and glared at her husband. Why didn't you say so earlier? Yihua felt that after bringing Brett back, he would definitely quarrel with Zhu Tian. It would be fine as long as they don't fight. How could Brett have the mood to eat right now? That damned cat. To actually look for women behind my back. In the past, the cat kept on saying that I don't like women, so it's fine if he rejected me. But now he is looking for 2 women at the same time. This liar cat, I am going to pluck out all of your fur. It had to be said that like boss, like subordinates. A few months ago, Yihua also kept on saying, what are women? How can I, the supreme overlord, possibly like human women? At the very most, it will only be once and there definitely won't be a second time. Look at the current situation. Women are what I, the supreme overlord, love the most, and I, the supreme overlord, love women the most. Brett, Zhu Tian only did this in order to complete the supreme overlord's order. Don't get too agitated. After saying this, Yihua felt that the situation wasn't good. As expected, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji cast a strange gaze at Yihua. Didn't you say that you did this to help Dongfang Yue? I didn't expect that it was all your scheme. Brett is settled now. The 2 wives pouted their small mouths and had an expression of, I am angry, and you are going to coax me. Chapter 470. Imperial Capital. In the Martial Arts Academy. This was an academy that combined science, technology, and strength. It was also the academy that all martial artists wanted to enter. Moreover, after graduation, there was no need to worry about the distribution of jobs. All the resources were fought over by major companies. Furthermore, the teachers in the academy were all experts of the martial master level. How could the students taught by such people be weak? On the rooftop of the teaching building, 2 ordinary-looking men were smoking and looking into the distance. If you thought they were ordinary people, you would be wrong. Wu Xiangguan was the principal, and they were his disciples. They had reached the 8th grade martial master at a young age. There was hope for them to suddenly become martial kings in the future. Yuan Long, lend me 3,000 gold coins. I'm short on money recently. The man grinned. Yuan Long was calmer. He asked, Jing Long, what's wrong? Did you gamble last night too? Who knew that 4th young master was such a noob? What a scam! A 2nd grade teacher lost everything yesterday. Today he resigned and became a mercenary to earn money. Jing Long sighed heavily and shook his head. Gambling was not a good thing. People would jump off the building at any time. You're getting married soon. Don't gamble so much. Yuan Long took out 5,000 gold coins and gave it to Jing Long, looking at the extra 2,000 gold coins. Jing Long clung to Yuan Long and smiled. You're a good brother. It's not a waste for me to take so much of the blame. You still have the nerve to say that. It's all your fault. Yenner is a good girl. Don't make her worry. Yuan Long patted Jing Long's shoulder and reminded him carefully. Got it. Look at how worried you are. You're even better than master. Jing Long yawned and turned to lean against the railing. Brother, you should find a partner. There are a few good female teachers in the school. Jinglong persuaded. His brother Yuanlong was so obsessed with martial arts that he almost forgot his gender. Yuanlong put out the cigarette and said indifferently, "We'll discuss it later. How's your marriage going? Do you need my help?" "No need. I'm getting married on the 25th of next month." I didn't expect that I would also step into the grave of marriage. Yuanlong patted his brother with a smile. "Look at how smug you are. Brother, did you hear the rumor today? A Cosmos God artifact." Jinglong said with a surprised expression. If he could have a Cosmos divine weapon, how wonderful would that be? Yuanlong didn't really believe it. "It's just a rumor. Don't believe it so easily." Beep beep, the watches on the brothers' wrists rang at the same time. It was a message from their master, and they immediately disappeared. In the principal's office, Wu Xiangwen stood by the window sill with his hands behind his back, looking at the 3 large satellites in the sky. His slightly narrowed eyes shone brightly. "Master! Master!" Wu Xiangwen slowly turned around and smiled kindly. "You're not in class, are you?" The 2 brothers shook their heads. "Jinglong, what's the date of the wedding?" Wu Xiangwen sat on a wooden chair and asked faintly. "Master, on the 25th of next month," Jinglong said respectfully. Wu Xiangwen nodded. "When the time comes, Master will definitely come to support you." Jinglong was overjoyed. "Thank you, Master. You've all heard the rumors, right?" Wu Xiangwen asked. The 2 brothers were startled. Master's words had a hidden meaning. "Master, could it be that the rumors are true? A universe artifact has appeared?" Jinglong asked excitedly. Wu Xiangwen nodded his head. "I just had a meeting with His Excellency the President and gained his trust. The mission this time has fallen onto my shoulders." Yuanlong's expression was astonished. "I didn't expect that the rumors were actually true. This is too inconceivable. A heaven-defying universe artifact has actually appeared. Master, is there anything that disciple can do for you?" Yuanlong cupped his hands and asked. "The burden on the 2 of your shoulders is very heavy. The target is already clear. With your strength, you should be able to instantly kill the other party and obtain the universe artifact. At that time, you will be able to make a great contribution, and I will be able to properly promote you in front of His Excellency the President." The 2 brothers were overjoyed. What they lacked was to make a great contribution. Only then would Wu Xiangwen have the chance to speak to the president. "Thank you, Master, for your promotion." The 2 brothers bowed and cupped their hands again. "All right, I have already sent the information to you too. Master will be waiting for your triumphant return." "Yes." The 2 brothers left the principal's office and stood at the doorway. After taking a deep breath, they looked at each other, confirmed with each other's gaze. "Jinglong, your chance is here." "Brother, it is our chance is here." After looking at each other and smiling, the 2 brothers immediately went back to make preparations, then headed towards Long and City with the fastest speed possible. Of course, they relied on shuttling. The distance of more than 100,000 kilometers was reached within a minute. This was the advancement of technology. When the 2 brothers arrived at Long and City, they deeply sighed. A small city is indeed a small city. It is completely not as prosperous as the imperial capital. "Brother, what should we do?" "Let's observe for a few days first, then make a plan to ensure that nothing goes wrong. After all, the other party has a universe artifact. We have to eliminate him before he takes it out." Yuanlong said attentively. After all, his little brother was going to get married soon. Nothing must go wrong. Jinglong said in disdain. "Brother, aren't you being too cautious? Our sneak attack will definitely succeed. Even a martial king will suffer a loss, let alone a low-level martial master who is not on guard." Jinglong, don't underestimate the enemy. What did I teach you? Yuanlong shouted lightly. His little brother has such a bad habit. When he is about to suffer a loss, he will know the consequences of underestimating the enemy. Jinglong laughed. "Brother, I think you are being too cautious. Sometimes you should give it your all, don't cower." "You brat. Brother, listen to me this time. Let's take a good look at the situation today, then make our move tomorrow. How about it?" Jinglong was filled with confidence. and he didn't really put the matter to heart. After all, from the intelligence, the other party was only a rank 1 or 2 martial master. There was nothing to be afraid of. Let's take a look first. You are someone who is going to get married soon. Be more steady. All right, after we get married, I will definitely be steady. After finished speaking, the two disappeared within the sea of people. Right now, Yihua and his family were strolling leisurely within the big manor. Dong Huangli was running on the grass with her arms wide open, and her laughter was filled with joy. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji seemed to be choosing a home, and they were displaying their women's specialties. For example, this place needs to be changed, that place needs to be moved, and that place needs to be moved, and that place needs to be more beautiful. While smoking a cigarette, Yihua walked at the back. Brett's expression wasn't very good. He wished that he could go and question Zhu Tian right now. Your Honor, when are we going back? Brett asked in a low voice. Yihua let out a deep sigh. Right now, Yi Zizi can be considered to have been trained properly. And now that we have encountered Brett and Zhu Tian, why can't I, the Supreme Overlord, have some leisure time? Chapter 471. Brett had no choice. He didn't dare to go against his honor's order. How are the others? They are all doing well. I found my other half. Yihua blurted out. I didn't expect that this sentence of his would hurt Brett. Yihua patted onto Brett's shoulder. Don't be discouraged. Even without Zhu Tian, there are still other good men. Brett looked at Yihua with a resolute gaze. Your Honor, you understand me. How could I not understand? Zhu Tian has a bad temper, and is also very stubborn. If I were to change, there might still be people who would like me. Zhu Tian must have suffered a lot. If Qingya and Donghuang Baiji had such a personality, I would have long. Your Honor, there are people. Brett said coldly. Yihua said faintly while smoking. It is normal for there to be people. It is abnormal for there to be no people. Do you want subordinate to kill them? This sentence coming out from the mouth of Brett was a bit weird. Yihua thought carefully. Brett, you haven't been by my side, so there are a lot of things that you don't understand. The way we deal with things now isn't as simple and crude as before. You need to know how to enjoy life, and not kill for the sake of killing. Isn't killing just killing? Brett asked doubtfully. That's why I said that you are too young and don't understand anything. I will properly teach you what acting skills are for the next few days. Right now, Yuan Long and Jing Long were hiding very far away. Even a martial king wouldn't be able to discover them. However, Brett wasn't a martial king, and Yihua wasn't a martial king either. Yihua, I feel that it is a bit expensive. Qingya displayed her CEO bargaining mode. She really didn't forget her old profession. Yihua said faintly, expensive? I feel that it is quite cheap, add a bit more. Shi Tingting was speechless. Even if you have money, you shouldn't spend it like this. That's why, our family's money can't be managed by you. Qingya snorted, then pulled Donghuang Baiji to continue bargaining. Fortunately, that intermediary was a woman and didn't get bewitched. If it was a man, he might have been cut in half. Yihua thought for a while, then suddenly thought of a good idea. He gathered everyone together. Meanwhile, on top of a tower that was more than 10 kilometers away, Jing Long held on to the most advanced telescope and asked curiously, what are they talking about? They should be discussing the price, Yuan Long said indifferently. Jing Long put down the binoculars. I told you. Now is a good opportunity. They are all gathered together. We can kill them all with a sneak attack and successfully complete the mission. Yuan Long still insisted on his own idea. Slow work yields fine results. Let's take action tomorrow. That's my brother. In the manor, the price was quickly finalized. It was a round number of 1 billion, which was really nothing. It was just a small amount of money. In Qingya's words, what can money do? He did not even know what money looked like. The servants were all robots. They were dexterous and hardworking, working 24 hours a day. The key was a one-time buyout with a lifetime warranty. At night, everyone sat at the dining table and ate the food made by the robot. Yihua felt that it was still alright. The food made by the robot was at the same level as the food made by the robot. The main point was that the crayfish here was really big, and the meat quality was also very delicious. After all, they were flown in from another planet, and everything they ate was luxurious. Shi Tingting, how about following me in the future? Yihua said faintly. Shi Tingting, who was sitting at the dining table, was startled. Soon after, she stood up and said while trembling with fear, "Mister, is this for real?" "Of course, in the future, you will be my representative here." Yihua's single sentence instantly turned Shi Tingting into a person who was only below one person. Of course, she could take back her position with just a single sentence. It would depend on her performance in the future. "Thank you for your trust, mister. I will not disappoint mister's expectations." Shi Tingting was overjoyed. Mister's origin is definitely very powerful, to the extent that he is not afraid of anything, and he even has a cosmos artifact in his hands. Following mister is definitely the wisest choice. Yihua waved his hand, indicating to Shi Tingting not to be too excited, and to quickly sit down. What is there to be excited about? There are still many things to be excited about in the future. Yihua. Someone is coming. Donghuang Baiji's eyebrows wrinkled. I didn't expect that they couldn't wait any longer. Let's go out for a walk, don't ruin the house. Yihua wiped his mouth and stood up. Let's have a warm-up match first. Don't let the audience be disappointed. Donghuang Li and Brett could be seen running out of the house while holding on to the balloons. Donghuang Li was extremely happy. Daddy is going to act cool, Mommy is going to act cool too. Ali is going to act cool too. Ha 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 ha. Brett was very confused. Isn't it better to just directly kill them? Why are they doing this? This is so boring. Yihua hugged onto Qinya and Donghuang Baiji's willowy waist, looking as if they were taking a walk after a meal. In front of him, the two children were playing, and behind him, Shi Tingting was following behind him. 1 kilometer away, Yuan Long and Jing Long were dressed in black attire, perfectly blending into the darkness of the night. The plan was slightly brought forward. The moon was dark and the wind was strong. It was very suitable for killing people. Brother, they are out. Jing Long said with a sneer. The mission this time is not that difficult. Yuan Long tightly wrinkled his brows. I don't feel good. They seem to be too relaxed. Am I thinking too much? Under normal circumstances, isn't this how it should be? Yuan Long said gravely. Just kill the target, let the others go. Brother, if we make a move, the others will definitely be affected. Furthermore, we are so close to them. Jing Long said faintly. Yuan Long didn't say anything, and after a while he said, Let's make a move then. This is my brother. The two of them hurriedly separated from each other, and one of them launched a sneak attack from both sides. Yihua, they separated from each other. Qinya said with a smile. I didn't expect this. No matter where one is, one's desire for treasures will never change. Yihua said lightly. There will always be a group of people who think that they are unparalleled under the heavens, completely unaware that they are just frogs at the bottom of the world. Towards Yihua's side, the two wives didn't refute. This was an undeniable fact. They are coming. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. 2 silver sword chi could be seen coming from both sides. The sword chi brought along a ferocious might, causing everyone's clothes to flutter madly. These two people only had the strength of low-end deities at best. They were able to withstand this sort of sneak attack with just their physical bodies, let alone Qinya and Donghuang Baiji. Only Shi Tingting needed to be protected. Donghuang Baiji didn't have the strength to protect herself. The 2 destructive silver sword chi pierced towards Yihua in a blink of an eye. The accuracy of the sword chi was just like cruise missiles. Boom. Boom. Chapter 472. Dust pervaded the air, and within the dust, Donghuang Li happily took out the ketchup that she had prepared beforehand and smeared it onto her daddy and mommy's faces. Afterward, Donghuang Li also smeared a bit of ketchup onto her own face, then smeared a bit of ketchup onto Brett's face. Brett appeared to be very confused. His honor really changed. In the past, his honor didn't care who the enemy was and would directly fight them. The current his honor seemed to be similar to that group of people. Brett's comprehension meant that Yihua had successfully transformed into a crafty old fox. I wonder if this is a bad thing or a good thing. At this moment, Yuan Long and Jing Long were also very vigilant. They did not show themselves because they wanted to see the result. When the dust settled, they saw the result they had hoped to see. The group of people were lying on the ground in disorder, their bodies covered in blood, and only the man was still breathing. The two of them were relieved and instantly appeared at the scene. "Brother, I told you it's very easy, but you still don't believe me." Jinglong grinned, appearing to be extremely relaxed, and casually took a look at Yi Hua, who was standing unsteadily. Yuan Long did not say anything and sighed deeply. This time his target was only this man, but other innocent people had died. He was a little sad. Yi Hua gasped for breath, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The blood was sour and sweet at the same time. "Who are you guys?" Jinglong smiled and said, "We are from the imperial capital. We are here to take the Cosmos Divine Tool under the orders of His Excellency the President. If you are sensible, hand it over." "So that's how it is. It was arranged by this world's president. Doesn't that mean that I have already formed a grudge with that president?" "Jinya, Baiji, what happened to you guys?" After Yi Hua obtained what he wanted to know, he immediately hugged onto his two deceased wives, and he even hugged onto Dong Huangli as well. The pitiful Brett was lying on the side, and no one cared about him. Of course, there was also Shi Tingting. "You all want the Cosmos artifact, but why did you all want to kill my woman?" Yi Hua questioned gravely. Jinglong said indifferently, "Sorry, this is collateral damage. It can't be avoided." "Ali, wake up. Papa hasn't found a boyfriend for you yet." Puff. Dong Huangli laughed out loud. Yi Hua went into a slight daze. "I feel that my daughter actually laughed out loud just a moment ago." Hearing that their daughter started laughing, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji started laughing as well. "Yi Hua, can you stop joking around? It's one thing for you to be a matchmaker for your subordinate, but you are also not letting your daughter off." Yi Hua was very helpless. "Both my wife and daughter have already laughed out loud, so how am I supposed to continue acting?" Yi Hua immediately stood up, took out a stick of cigarette, and lit it up. Brett also got up helplessly. He even licked the blood at the corner of his mouth. It tasted pretty good. Shi Tingting also stood up. Mr. was able to withstand such a powerful attack. He was indeed very powerful. "Daddy, I'm sorry, Ali just can't control myself." After saying that, Dong Huangli started laughing again. "Daddy actually said that he will find a boyfriend for me. Daddy is so funny." Meanwhile, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were also leaning on their husband's side and laughing out loud. "So it turns out that you have already decided to find a boyfriend for Ali." While the whole family was laughing, Yuan Long and Jinglong's smiles froze on their faces. That was his full strength attack just now, but they seemed to be fine and were still laughing there. From what the little girl said, it seemed like she was just acting. If she hadn't laughed, she would have thought it was real. This fully reflected Yi Hua's acting skills. He managed to deceive the two brothers. "Why are the two of you completely fine?" Jinglong mumbled. "This is definitely impossible. Why are we completely fine?" Yi Hua said coldly. "What do you think should have happened to us? Shouldn't the two of you be dead?" Jinglong's brain was already unable to think normally. "This is too fake. This is just like fighting a boss in a game. The boss is clearly dead, but then suddenly came back to life. I can only tell you that even though your thoughts are too beautiful, the reality is very cruel. This is impossible. You are only a low-level martial master. It is impossible for you to survive under the attack of the two of us." Jinglong was still unwilling to believe the truth. "This is unscientific, you know?" Yi Hua sneered. "Who told you that we are only at the level of martial master?" After speaking, Yi Hua released a bit of his aura, and a terrifying pressure immediately enveloped the two brothers. Beads of sweat immediately appeared on their foreheads. Both of their legs were trembling, and shock could be seen on their faces. This isn't a martial master. This isn't a martial king either. This is even a martial emperor, or a martial spirit, or even a higher-level martial overlord. The intelligence is wrong. "Jinglong, quickly leave." Yuan Long blocked in front of his younger brother and shouted out. "The enemy is too strong. Even if I don't use a Cosmos artifact, I will still be able to easily kill them." Jinglong didn't run away and shouted out, "If we leave together. If we stay together." Are you stupid? You are going to get married next month, and I am just a single person. Quickly leave. Yuan Long shouted out angrily. Even at this time, you are still not sensible. Right now, every single person that can run away counts. Brother, quickly leave. Yuan Long slapped onto Jing Long's chest, and the latter flew out and stabilized himself in the air. Quickly leave. Go back and tell teacher. Yuan Long shouted out once again. Jing Long looked at his brother's tall back view, and a struggling expression appeared on his face. Without thinking anymore, he turned around and ran away. If you have any problems, then come at me. Seeing that his younger brother had already escaped, Yuan Long let out a breath of relief. Soon after, he looked towards Yi Hua and the others and let out a powerful aura. However, this aura didn't make Yi Hua and the others feel anything. A golden jade bow appeared in Brett's left hand. The entire bow was as tall as a person, and it looked very uncoordinated. When Brett's right hand was placed on the bow, a golden-colored glass arrow suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The golden-colored glass arrow emitted out a terrifying pressure, and this pressure caused Yuan Long to be unable to move at all. Yuan Long could only watch foolishly as Brett pulled the bow. Brett's fingers loosened, and the golden-colored glass arrow pierced through the air. Along with an ear-piercing sonic boom, the golden-colored glass arrow drew a beautiful arc in the air, and from afar, the golden-colored glass arrow looked like a shooting star. No. Yuan Long turned his head around and looked towards the golden-colored glass arrow. While carrying the aura of death, the golden-colored glass arrow chased after his younger brother. Meanwhile, Jing Long, who was running away, felt a terrifying aura coming from behind him. When he slowly turned his head around to take a look, he saw that the golden-colored glass arrow's speed wasn't something that he could escape from. At this moment, in Jing Long's mind, his teacher, his big brother that he had lived with since young, and his wife that he was about to marry appeared in his mind. Unwilling to die just like this. Roar. At this moment, Jing Long broke through. However, the golden-colored glass arrow mercilessly struck onto its target, and no matter how Yi Hua broke through, it would be of no use. It was as if golden fireworks had been released in the air, dazzling and dazzling. Yi Hua looked at Yuan Long, who was in front of him, and said faintly, "When the two of you had this kind of terrifying thought, your ending had already been decided. If there is a next life, don't ever have this kind of terrifying thought, because this kind of thought is extremely harmful." Chapter 473. Donghuang Baiji summoned out her sword. With a cold gaze, she casually waved her sword. A purple sword energy slashed towards Yuan Long. The outcome was already decided. Yuan Long fell to the ground, filled with regret. Yi Hua carried his daughter and walked forward while mumbling, "It is fortunate that there is a place to sleep. Shi Tingting, did you buy insurance for this place?" Shi Tingting was speechless. "I was just joking, don't be nervous," Yi Hua said faintly, and the latter let out a sigh of relief. "Seems like I have to bring insurance for everything in the future." Pausing for a moment, Yi Hua took out his flowing lotus blade and swung it upwards. Shi Tingting was shocked by this action. "Sir, can you not use this method of throwing rubbish? My heart hurts." The flowing lotus blade wasn't flung away by Yi Hua. It was just floating above the manor, and emitting out the aura that it should have. It seemed like it was summoning all of the experts to come and snatch the flowing lotus blade. At this moment, everyone in the entire Long and city felt the aura emitted by the Cosmos God equipment. All of them looked towards the same direction, and their gazes were filled with astonishment. There really was one. When the people near the manor saw the blade floating in the air, their bodies involuntarily trembled. A Cosmos God artifact that was right in front of them. It was as if it was within reach. Very soon, a large group of people appeared near the manor. They raised their heads and looked at the Cosmos God artifact in the sky. Greed appeared in their eyes. There were also a large number of aircrafts in the surroundings. It seemed that there were also news reporters. The appearance of a Cosmos Divine artifact instantly swept across the entire blue blaze star. After all, in this civilized world, the speed of transmission was quite fast. Many people could no longer sit still. Even if they did not fight over it, They still wanted to witness the brilliance of a Cosmos God artifact. While smoking, Yihua stood beside the window and stared at the spicy chicken in the sky. In just a short while, so many people have already gathered here. This is truly a rare sight. What are you thinking about? Donghuang Baiji, who was wearing light pajamas, lightly hugged onto Yihua's tiger body and asked tenderly. Yihua closed the window and drew the curtains, then said with a slight smile, "It's nothing. I'm just curious how long they are going to look for." "Don't worry about them. You should worry about me first," Donghuang Baiji said with a red face. Yihua hugged onto Baiji's sexy body. "Baiji, you are becoming more and more enchanting. If you know, then hurry up and come. How impatient. I shall grant you unparalleled happiness." Donghuang Baiji. Even when they were husband and wife, they still had to act cool. In the imperial capital, President Felipe once again called for an emergency meeting. It was the same people as before. "Wu Xiangwen, what's going on? How did it get exposed?" Felice's pale face was filled with gloom. Originally, she had only wanted to deal with it secretly, but now, everyone knew. Wu Xiangwen said in a deep voice, "Your Excellency, my 2 disciples have failed their mission. He's been sacrificed." Ji Yang said lightly, "I was too careless. You shouldn't have sent them. You should have gone yourself." The other 3 martial kings also nodded their heads. How could they leave such an important task to others? It was not right. "Bureau Chief Ji, I should say something about you. Because of your wrong information, 2 of my disciples were sacrificed. How should we settle this debt?" Ji Yang's expression changed. "Wu Xiangwen, you were the one who accepted the mission. Now that you haven't completed it, you're causing trouble for me? All right. Stop quarreling," Felisa shouted angrily. They were still quarreling at this time. "What good suggestions do you have? Tell me," Gao Han said in a deep voice. "Your Excellency, I think we should wait and see. Once the Cosmos God tool appears, many people will think of ways to snatch it. We should just sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight." "Your Excellency, I also think so," Chengyan echoed. Felisa asked in a low voice. "Then what if it is really snatched?" The 3 martial kings stood up and said respectfully, "We are willing to snatch it back for your Excellency." With these words from the 3 martial kings, Felisa felt a lot more at ease. "Then it's decided. Let's see the situation first before making a decision." Yes. Although it was late at night, the entire Long and city was brightly lit. Especially around the manor, there was a sea of people. There was not even a place to stand. They wanted to get closer, but they did not dare to. Furthermore, the number of people was still increasing. If the aircraft in the sky was slightly careless, there would be the risk of rear-end collision. Although there were a lot of people, no one dared to move because they did not know what the consequences would be. Suddenly, a luxurious aircraft was slowly approaching the Cosmos God tool. "Young master, I think it's better to forget about it. Everyone is watching." In the aircraft, an old man advised earnestly. The young man sitting at the back said indifferently, "That's because they are idiots. Not snatching the Cosmos God tool, they only know how to watch. This kind of thing depends on who has the guts." "Young master, please reconsider." "No need to reconsider, just directly go and take it." The speed of the aircraft increased by a lot. Everyone in the sky and on the ground looked at the aircraft. If they really succeeded, their intestines would turn green with regret. As the distance got closer and closer, everyone held their breath. Would they succeed? Obviously not. The ground below the Cosmos God tool began to squirm. Soon after, countless tree roots emerged. They were incomparably thick and sturdy. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know. I heard that Cosmos God tools are all protected by monsters." "Then what kind of monster is that? I have never heard of it before." Countless tree roots whizzed towards the sky, all of them aimed at the aircraft. And the aircraft also discovered the abnormality. It seems like it wants to escape immediately. Furthermore, it released an energy barrier. Although it is only a domestic aircraft, this energy barrier can withstand normal attacks. However, this was definitely not an ordinary attack. Countless thick tree roots mercilessly stabbed into the aircraft, piercing through it. This was not the end. Other tree roots also rushed to stab into the aircraft. The aircraft was like a piece of beef that was pierced by countless toothpicks. The scene was shocking. The tree roots seemed to be not satisfied with stabbing into the aircraft. Immediately after, they exerted force and tore the aircraft apart, revealing the internal structure of the aircraft. The two halves of the aircraft finally exploded. In the night sky, it was extremely beautiful. Of course, there was also a little bit of horror. The tree roots did not continue to search for their target. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. They even returned underground, as if nothing had happened. With such a situation happening, no one was able to catch up. All the aircraft retreated 1 kilometer to avoid being accidentally damaged. However, this was a Cosmos God tool. Many people would risk their lives to snatch it. Even if they had to risk their lives, they would not hesitate. Various powers held an emergency meeting. How should they snatch this Cosmos God tool? Although they were in the sky, there was a monster watching them from underground. Chapter 474. After obtaining this Cosmos God artifact, I will be able to create my own country and become the president of my own country. High risk means high reward. The light of dawn illuminated the entire land. A lot of people didn't sleep at all, and there were even more people who were quietly rushing over. Suddenly, a strange thing happened. Look at the house in the manor. It seems like someone came out. That's right, a man and a child. It was precisely Yihua and Ali. Dong Huangli woke up her father early in the morning. What she didn't know was that Yihua had worked overtime last night, and before he even slept for 2 hours, he was already woken up by his daughter. However, he had already promised his daughter yesterday that he would wake up early in the morning with his daughter. As a father, I shouldn't lie. That's why this scene happened. Everyone looked at the father and daughter running around the manor. However, they discovered a problem. Why didn't that monster appear? We are running right below the manor. Why is this happening? Daddy, there are a lot of people? Regarding this kind of running, Dong Huangli didn't really care much about it. Yihua yawned. The Empress's demands are getting higher and higher, and she even wants to guarantee the quality of the food. And they are all here to snatch the trash. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth. What's there to snatch the trash? This is so strange. That's because in our eyes, the trash is a supreme treasure in their eyes. Yihua explained carefully. There are indeed a lot of people here. Daddy, do you have a lot of trash like this? Dong Huangli asked naively. That's right, I have a lot of trash. Dong Huangli suddenly came to a realization. So Daddy is a trash collector. Yihua. Everyone in Blue Blaze Planet was looking at the father and daughter pair through the video broadcast. The father and daughter pair had a smile on their face, seemingly not afraid of anything, and they were even chatting with each other. Just what kind of father and daughter pair is this? Suddenly, industrial aircrafts flew over one after another. All of the aircrafts were carrying soil, and the soil filled up the huge hole in the manor. Why aren't the aircrafts attacking? Everyone was confused. Furthermore, a group of robots appeared, laid a layer of fresh grass on the ground, and then left safely. This is too strange, to the point that no one is able to understand. What was even more despairing was yet to come. A few robots brought out chairs and dishes, and a woman dressed as a housekeeper waited respectfully at the side. Then 2 elegant women and a child walked out. The jogging father and daughter also ran over. They were eating breakfast on the monster's head. Who gave them the guts? Where's the monster? Quickly come out and destroy them. They're too arrogant, actually eating breakfast on top of your head. However, he left the 2 women behind. It was the first time that he had seen such beautiful women. Just a glance at them was enough to trigger a physiological reaction. Especially the cold and arrogant beauty. She had a joyful smile on her face, as if she had obtained great satisfaction. It was still the same 6 people in the conference room in the imperial capital. Look, too savage, completely not putting me in his eyes. Felisa slammed the table and shouted. He already knew what happened last night clearly. Your Excellency President, please calm your anger. He is a man who possesses a cosmos divine artifact. His strength is definitely extraordinary. From the results of last night's battle, it can be seen that ordinary people are not a match for him at all. Ji Yong voiced out his opinion. It was quite pertinent. Then what do you guys think we should do? This is simply a slap to my face. It's a form of contempt for the entire Federation. Felisa shouted in a low voice. He was so angry that his fair skin had turned red. Nobody said anything. It was obvious that they weren't completely confident either. This man's strength was too strange. If they rashly went over, they would definitely be sending themselves to their deaths. Your Excellency, why don't we try to rope him in? Zhuang Hong suggested. Felisa's eyes widened as he said in disbelief. You want me, the president of the Federation, to rope in a traveler? If we don't choose to rope him in, then we'll have to fight. Your Excellency wants you to consider this carefully, Gao Han said in a low voice. This was the worst choice. Felisa's gaze turned cold. Does the De Alliance fear a traveler? Which one of you is willing to fight for me? Your Excellency, please reconsider. Yes, Your Excellency. I hope that Your Excellency will reconsider before acting. These kinds of words simply couldn't stop Felisa from going berserk. The man in the video had a leisurely attitude. He simply didn't care about him at all. Mobilize all the Federation's combat power. I'll personally command. I'll let him know that the Federation's strength isn't something that an outsider like him dares to slander. The 5 people that were seated didn't have any way to stop him. The president's words were the heavens. They could only obey. Gathering all the combat power to intimidate others, this was something that had never happened before in the history of the Federation's peace. As for Felisa, he had also brought his own cosmos divine artifact, the War Hammer. Honestly speaking, Felisa didn't like this universal divine weapon. When he held it, it was like a blacksmith. It didn't conform to the demeanor that a president should have. Holding a hammer to fight with others and holding a glittering treasured sword were 2 completely different concepts. Following the president's orders, all the Federation's ground forces started to gather and prepared to kill their way towards Long and City. Furthermore, there were also flying troops and other types of troops. There were even 1,000 troops formed by martial masters. They would definitely be able to sweep through any planet. Such a huge troop was only dealing with a single person and a single blade. This could be considered as giving enough face. However, Yihua still didn't know about the Empire's movements. If he knew, perhaps he would be a little excited. Shi Tingting, we should be on television, right? Yihua asked curiously. Shi Tingting said respectfully, Yes, sir. Those black spots are blocking my sunlight. Qinya, what do you think we should do? Qinya sighed helplessly. Do you still not know what your husband means? I'll listen to you, alright? Lin Sanju tried to sound him out. Qinya, this is how my good wife should be. You finally know how to think about me. Yihua lightly held onto Qinya's hand and stealthily removed the seal on the storage ring. Qinya laughed. Following such a husband, I have already resigned myself to my fate. If I really have to go to hell, I will accompany him to hell. Qinya, give it a try by snapping your fingers. A naughty smile could be seen on the corner of Yihua's mouth. Puzzled, Qinya put down her knife and fork. Snap my fingers? Be a little gentler. I'm afraid you can't control it well. Yihua warned them not to make everyone in Blue Blaze Planet disappear, with just a snap of his fingers. Qinya did not know what was going on, but she still followed her husband's instructions and stretched out her right hand. Her tender thumb and middle finger touched together. At this moment, everyone was looking at Qinya's actions, and they were completely unable to understand what she was trying to do. Pa. Chapter 475. Everyone was stupefied. I can see it. A small ball of light appeared between those delicate fingers. The ball of light was continuously expanding, and it looked just like a crystal bubble. Everyone was attracted by this bubble. It was so beautiful and dazzling. Even Qinya herself was attracted by the bubble. However, the beauty of the bubble was terrifying. When the bubble touched the first aircraft, the latter gradually disappeared. It was the kind of aircraft that disappeared along with the expansion of the bubble. This was an aircraft that disappeared without any reason. Immediately after, more and more aircraft appeared, and by the time everyone reacted, it was already too late. The crystal bubble swallowed up all the flying devices in the sky. The crowd that was relatively close to the bubble had all disappeared. Not even a single piece of the aircraft was left. Pao Yihua picked up a knife and fork and threw it out, piercing the bubble. If this goes on, all of the people on this planet will disappear. After all, I, the Supreme Overlord, am not the kind of person who would willfully kill the innocent. I am a man with principles. The sunlight smoothly shone down, lighting up Qinya's astonished face. Qinya didn't expect that a snap of her fingers would actually cause such damage. How can this be? Looking at the colorful ring on her finger, then looking at Yihua, she seemed to have understood. This bastard actually hid it from me. Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, looked at Qinya's gaze. That ring is so beautiful. In actuality, Donghuang Baiji's eyes were already red. Why does Qinya have a ring, but I don't? Cough, cough, cough. Donghuang Baiji held onto her chin and coughed lightly, then waved her hand. Yihua asked concernedly, Baiji, did you catch a cold? This idiot. Yihua, do you think that I should have more things on my hands? Donghuang Baiji stretched out her pure white and tender hands and said. Yihua finally understood. In actuality, he had already prepared the ring long ago. He definitely wouldn't be biased towards anyone. When Donghuang Baiji saw the ring on Yihua's hand, she immediately became bashful. She didn't expect that Yihua would really prepare the ring. Hands? Yihua said faintly. Donghuang Baiji's face immediately became red. Shi Tingting, who was at the side, was also moved. Qinya teased. Baiji, didn't you always complain that you don't have a ring? Why are you suddenly afraid now? That's right, mommy, daddy is going to give you a wedding ring, Donghuang Li said happily. The empress lowered her head slightly, then stretched out her hand. Yihua held onto Empress's fair and small hand, then wore the ring on her ring finger. This ring should be considered as me trapping Empress, right? When Donghuang Baiji looked at the dazzling ring on her ring finger, a smile of happiness appeared on her beautiful face. It was just that there was no one to witness it. Daddy, Donghuang Li also stretched out her small meaty hand. It was clear that she also wanted a hand. Yihua patted onto his daughter's head. In the future, Ali will receive a ring, but it won't be given by Daddy. Sniff, 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 Ali wants Daddy to give it to you, Donghuang Li said. Yihua took out a golden white bracelet, and Donghuang Li was immediately mesmerized by the bracelet, because the bracelet was even shining with stars, and it was so beautiful. Do you like it? Yihua said with a slight smile. Donghuang Li carefully held the paper in her hand. And Ali likes it. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji clearly liked the bracelet too, but they were too embarrassed to accept it. Could it be that I have to fight with my daughter over the bracelet? How embarrassing would that be? When the time comes, I can blackmail Yihua on the bed. There are definitely a lot of good things on Yihua's body, and yet he is actually hiding them and not giving them to his wife. He is truly stingy. Yihua took out another golden token and tossed it over to Shi Tingting. The latter caught the token hurriedly and almost dropped it onto the ground. Use it when you are in a life and death crisis. Yihua warned. Shi Tingting was terrified, then said hurriedly, Thank you, mister. Looking at the golden token in her hand, Shi Tingting took in a breath. The token that mister is giving me is definitely not an ordinary item. Also, I already said that this token can only be used when I am in a life and death situation, which means that it is a life-saving talisman. However, this also means that mister won't be staying here for a long period of time, and will have to leave. Thinking up to here, Shi Tingting felt a bit disappointed. After giving out the rewards, Yihua continued to enjoy the peaceful breakfast. The breakfast had become much quieter. But the faces of the people who escaped were filled with fear. Without any regard for their lives, the people who escaped took all kinds of transportation and left this demonic city. And everyone in the world also saw that bubble. When they saw how the bubble made the people disappear, they were all incomparably shocked. If this kind of big move was used painstakingly, everyone would still be able to imagine it. However, this kind of move was actually done by a woman with a light snap of her fingers. This kind of result was unacceptable. With just that light snap of her fingers, everyone died, and those who didn't die were almost scared half to death. This is simply not a strength that a human should have. Just what kind of family is this? Those who originally planned to turn bicycles into motorcycles, but after seeing this kind of result, they didn't dare to have this kind of thought anymore. Because, without even a bit of hope, what's the point of doing this? There's no point at all. I might as well go back and hug a woman and play comfortably. Right when everyone was frantically escaping from the city, the sky flashed. Blinding. Everyone raised up their hands and covered their eyes. What a dazzling light. When everyone saw who it was that came, everyone stopped their footsteps. That was the Federation's war flag. And among the war flag, there was even a golden war flag, which meant that the Federation's president had also come. The people who escaped started cheering. The Federation did not abandon them, and after receiving the news, they immediately came to provide reinforcements. As expected of the president. Formidable. A row of battleships appeared in the sky. The battleships were arranged neatly, and on top of the battleships, there were 1,000 Marshal Master powerhouses. My God, that is the president's self-defense force. 1,000 Marshal Master powerhouses, so powerful. There are also various types of soldiers, this is too powerful. There are also 3 Marshal King powerhouses. My God. My God. I actually saw 3 Marshal King powerhouses. I am so excited. The battleships slowly flew towards the manor. Those who were originally planning to escape ran back to the manor, wanting to see how the president is going to teach that arrogant man a lesson. Yi Hua, who was currently eating his breakfast, turned his head and looked towards a place not far away. That huge battleship seemed to be right in front of his eyes, and a supreme aura was coming towards him. This caused Yi Hua to go into a slight daze. Such a big scene. Mr. This is the Federation's president. The president is here. Shi Tingting was about to collapse. After following her mister for a few days, everything that she knew was completely overturned. So money is so easy to earn. The divine tool of the universe has become trash, and killing someone only takes a snap of the fingers to destroy their worldview. Yi Hua said faintly, so it's the president. This pretentiousness is not bad, but it still can't compare to me. Daddy, this scene is so spectacular. Dong Huangli mumbled. Yi Hua took a look at his 2 wives, and astonishment could be seen on his face as well. Chapter 476. The battleship stopped above the entrance of the manor. A blue laser shot out from the bottom of the battleship, flattening the entire ground. Soon after, the battleship slowly descended, and the cabin door was opened. Tap tap tap. A series of sonorous and powerful footsteps rang out, and the battleship that had a golden flag on it actually started playing a BGM. Alright, this is the Federation's marching song. It is indeed very exciting. Especially when it is accompanied by the footsteps of the soldiers. It is simply invincible. However, the surrounding people who were watching the show also started singing along with the BGM. They were definitely supporting the president. When all of the soldiers were in position, the only floating battleship also slowly descended, but it did not completely descend. It was still around 100 meters away from the ground. Suddenly, a red carpet was spread out, and on both sides of the red carpet, the Federation's flag was raised high. At this moment, the cabin door slowly opened. A golden ladder descended onto the ground, and when Felice's figure appeared, the BGM stopped playing. The president has arrived, stop God's punishment. All of the soldiers began shouting in unison. The president has arrived, stop God's punishment. The president has arrived, stop God's punishment. Felisa, who was wearing a set of golden armor, could be seen slowly walking down the stairs. Just that, his hand was holding onto a war hammer, and he looked just like a blacksmith. Behind Felisa were the 3 Marshal Kings, as well as the chief of the Spacetime Directorate, Ji Yang, and the old man Wu Xiangguan. New reporters rushed over one after another, sending this scene to all over the world. This is the prestige that came from His Excellency the President. That majestic figure, that calm face, that firm muscles that are as delicious as sandwiches, and that dignified footstep that he took, made people feel convinced. The president is mighty. The president is mighty. The president is mighty. The surrounding people started cheering loudly. The president is too awesome. Just this way of appearing is enough to suppress the other party. Look at what they have, a broken down house. And then nothing else. Only that universe artifact above their head is able to enter their eyes. Of course, there are also those two beauties for that child to be able to become a child bride. She will definitely be very beautiful when she grows up. Yihua, are you not going to take action? Qingye said hurriedly. Don't you like to act cool normally? Right now the other party is already acting cool in front of me. Why aren't you reacting? Donghuang Baiji said. Yihua, we cannot lose to others. We must make a grand entrance. Daddy called dragon over. Donghuang Li only wanted to say those 3 dragons. However, would he use the same extravagance twice? That's impossible. It can't serve as a foil to my heroic bearing. Felisa raised his hands high, and the entire place fell silent. The atmosphere was very heavy, and all the soldiers were staring at the family. That kid was still drinking. She actually didn't know fear. But on second thought, kids are just too naive. What do they know? Felisa waited for a moment. She didn't expect to be ignored. She signaled Ji Yang, who was beside her, to say something. Ji Yang walked out respectfully. Who are you? Yihua slowly stood up. Everyone became alert for a moment. They were clearly a bit frightened by Yihua. Just when everyone was feeling puzzled, Yihua spread out his hands. The few of them began to ascend slowly. Yihua looked down at the crowd and said faintly, You are asking me who I am? I am someone that all of you cannot afford to offend. Right after Yihua finished speaking, a purple cloud slowly floated over and enveloped Yihua and the others. Everyone was baffled. Was he throwing a smoke bomb and preparing to escape? Where was he? What the hell is he doing? Felisa was also very puzzled and asked gravely, What technique is this? The 5 people at the back shook their heads. I have never seen such a technique before. Suddenly, there was a change in the purple mist. Slowly descending from the sky, it actually formed a flight of stairs. My God, those are clouds. Why does it feel like they have materialized? Furthermore, I have never seen such a beautiful flight of stairs before. The flight of stairs seemed to be red and gold at the same time, giving off a very strong illusion. As the flight of stairs materialized, the cloud on top of the flight of stairs also started materializing. A complicated and strange background appeared in everyone's eyes. There were no divine beasts, nor were there any ghosts, but it gave off a very oppressive feeling. Finally, an exquisite and majestic throne appeared, and the man who was sitting on it just now was sitting on it. 2 women were standing beside the throne, and there were also 2 children and Shi Tingting who was standing slightly further away. Looking at such a scene, everyone swallowed their saliva. This scene is simply too spectacular. The width of that flight of stairs is even wider than all of the Federation soldiers, and the entire platform above the flight of stairs is several kilometers long, even wider than the president's battleship fleet. Dong dong dong. A series of metal clanking sounds suddenly rang out, immediately resounding throughout the sky. Suddenly, a group of people appeared on both sides of the platform above the flight of stairs. This was a group of warriors dressed in colorful armor, walking over with a majestic aura. However, no one knew where these warriors came from. The top of the platform on both sides were empty, but these warriors all walked out from there. Yihua felt that it was a bit monotonous. There should be some background music. I want something more intense, the kind that sounds like a fight. Yihua actually knew of a song, Superstars in Troubled Times. Hearing such a song, if one were to see a hoodlum on the road, they would immediately King gang up on them. Suddenly, a burst of music rang out between heaven and earth. When the music rang out, some people couldn't help but shake their heads along with the rhythm. The reporters who were following and filming in the sky were all dumbfounded. Did this man install a loudspeaker in the sky? It's as if the entire world can hear it. Adding that shocking scene, it was as if their entire body was boiling. Everyone who was watching the video had this kind of feeling, completely unaware that this was a shocking scene of the enemy. Furthermore, they all had the urge to go to the streets and fight. Tens of thousands of colorful warriors walked down the flight of stairs in an orderly manner, and then spread out. Every step they took was so majestic, causing people to blush with shame. After a long time, the colorful warriors couldn't stand anymore and finally stopped. However, looking down from the sky, the number of colorful warriors was at least 5 times that of the Federation. Furthermore, because they were all dressed in the same uniform, they looked even more intimidating. Just by standing there, people would tremble with fear, and they would even have the terrifying thought of running away without fighting. Felisa was also stupefied by the situation in front of him. Compared to him, my side is just like playing house. However, if you think that it's over, you are gravely mistaken. A dragon roar suddenly rang out from the top of the platform on both sides. This dragon roar shook the heaven and earth and made ghosts and gods cry. The dragon had not appeared yet, and its might was already surging over like seawater, causing people to be unable to breathe. Finally, the dragon's head appeared. Everyone was shocked by the huge dragon's head, and they felt that it would be able to bite a warship into pieces with a single bite. Furthermore, it was a huge dragon with antlers and a snake's body. When the dragon's entire body hovered in the sky, that imposing figure caused everyone to swallow their saliva, and their eyes were filled with fear. This is a divine dragon. Yihua stood up and spread out his hands again. All of the colorful warriors shouted out in unison, "Be afraid! Be afraid under the power of the Supreme Overlord." Chapter 477. Everyone in Cerulean Planet was stupefied. Looking at the scene in front of them and the dragon roar that was ringing beside their ears, they were completely at a loss. Just who are they? Who can tell us? Just what kind of people were they? The president's acting is already very awesome. He is already very imposing. The other party clearly only has a few people. Why did so many warriors suddenly appear? If it was only warriors, then forget it. Furthermore, there were even 2 enormous dragons that appeared. A feeling of powerlessness emerged from the bottom of their hearts. In addition to the dragon's final roar, everyone's line of defense was completely crushed. That was a kind of worship towards the unparalleled power. No one was able to raise any thoughts of resisting. Everyone in Long and City was able to see the enormous dragons that were hovering in the sky. Their entire bodies were unable to move. They didn't even have the strength to speak. As the most advanced president of Cerulean Planet, and even the entire Milky Way galaxy, right now Felisa was already shocked by the scene in front of him. His mouth was slightly opened. Even the 3 martial kings behind him were the same. They had entered into a daze. Compared to him, what I am doing is really just a small show. Look at the other people's warriors. Their armors are all emitting out rainbow-colored radiance that can simply blind people's eyes. And those 2 enormous dragons are really unable to resist at all. Right now, looking at the cosmos artifact that is floating in the middle, it seems like it is really not that important anymore. Yihua was very satisfied with this kind of show. I feel that it is a lot more powerful than the last time. However, today is the first time that I am able to act cool in front of my wife. I feel very good in my heart. If not for taking into consideration my face, I would really want to turn around and see what kind of expression they have. Yihua's guess was right. Although Qing Ye's expression was calm, she was very shocked in her heart. I didn't expect that my husband would have such an ability. Her understanding of Yihua increased by another level. No wonder he likes to act cool so much, so it turns out that he has the qualifications to act cool. Furthermore, this feeling is really not bad. I feel very proud. The person who is sitting here is my husband. My heart is filled with happiness. Donghuang Baiji's heart was also not calm. I am also used to seeing big scenes, but I have never seen such a big scene before. Especially the rainbow-colored dragon that is at the side. Its body is really too big. The other party's warship looks just like a toothpick, thin and small. Donghuang Baiji was very happy and also very excited towards her husband being able to possess such strength. The luckiest thing in her life was that day, at that time, she walked into that leisure bar, had sex with Yihua, and gave birth to her precious daughter, Ali. Although there were some small misunderstandings in between, but all of those misunderstandings were resolved, and what was left was only satisfaction. Dong Huangli had seen such a scene last time, therefore, after being shocked for a moment, she became indifferent. Meanwhile, Brett's expression didn't change at all, as if he had seen His Honor's expression very often. This is merely one of the ways His Honor acts cool, and His Honor has hundreds of ways to act cool. As a local, Shi Tingting's mind was in a mess. Actually, when the rainbow-colored warrior appeared, she felt a little dizzy. When she saw the mystical dragon, she could no longer think normally. No wonder Mister's family was not afraid of anything. It turned out that they had such strength. It was too terrifying, too despairing. Upon receiving His Honor's order, Brett slowly took a few steps forward and shouted out coldly, "Kneel!" A terrifying pressure came out from Brett's mouth, and it felt as if the air was being pressed down by a mountain. Everyone, including the president, everyone knelt onto the ground with a plop. Both of their knees smashed open a small hole on the ground, and both of their hands were propping themselves onto the ground. Their faces were filled with fear, and their eyes were wide open. This kind of scene was suffocating, and everyone in Blue Blaze Planet was able to see it clearly. Their president knelt onto the ground. The Federation's president knelt onto the ground. The three martial kings who were revered by tens of thousands of people also knelt onto the ground. Even the self-defense forces of the president also knelt onto the ground. All of them surrendered under the power of that cold-faced man. The sky of Blue Blaze Planet is going to change. Felipe looked at the grass in disbelief. I am the president of Blue Blaze Planet, and yet, I actually knelt onto the ground with just a single sentence. Furthermore, I knelt onto the ground towards the enemy. This is a huge humiliation. If this is seen by my own people, where would the prestige of the president go? The huge pressure caused everyone who was present to tremble. Soon after, Brett shouted out, "Rise!" Along with Brett's shout, everyone felt as if the mountain on their back had disappeared, and their breathing became smoother. "President! Your Excellency President! President!" The three martial kings who were at the side all stood up. Seeing that the president was still lying on the ground, they hurriedly went forward and helped the president up. Felipe's eyes were bright red, seemingly like he wanted to get angry, but he didn't dare to get angry. This caused everyone who was watching to become anxious. "President, why don't you get angry? The other party has already come to bully us." Those who were not present at the scene were definitely thinking like this, but their president was present at the scene. Feeling the pressure that came from the divine dragon, they really didn't dare to get angry. Yihua stretched out his hand. This action of his caused everyone to be startled. What is this man planning to do? Is he planning to kill someone? Does the president have the ability to resist? Obviously not. However, the camera was focused on the Cosmos artifact at the center. The body of the Cosmos artifact could be seen slowly distorting, just like a piece of iron that was revolving. My God! That man is actually planning to destroy a Cosmos artifact in front of everyone. That is a Cosmos artifact. Furthermore, it is a long blade that is emitting out green light. Just by looking at its appearance, it is even better than the hammer that the president is using. Bang! The Cosmos artifact finally couldn't endure anymore and self-destructed. Immediately, an enormous airwave was produced, engulfing the entire city. The airwave was like a level 10 hurricane. However, for such a high-tech city, a level 10 hurricane was nothing much. The Cosmos artifact could be seen falling onto the ground in two pieces. Looking at this scene, a lot of people couldn't take it anymore. Is this how you are going to waste a Cosmos artifact? Even if you don't want it, there are still a lot of people who would want it. Felipe and the other martial kings weren't thinking about this, they were thinking about something. This man is actually able to easily destroy a Cosmos artifact from afar. Why does such a power exist? Yihua said gravely, "Don't panic, I still have a lot of trash weapons like this. I just want to let you all know one thing. The things that you all view as treasures are all trash in my eyes." No one had ever seen such an arrogant man before, but what was undeniable was that he had the qualifications to be arrogant, and his arrogance caused people to be unable to resist, causing people to hover on the edge of fear. "Just what do you want?" Felipe shouted out loudly. "What I hate the most is when there are people who act cool in front of me, and you are one of them." Yi Hua's tone caused Felipe's heart to palpitate madly. This was the feeling of an act-tough king meeting another act-tough king, and then being slapped in the face by the powerful act-tough king. Chapter 478. I am the dignified president of the Federation. And today, I lost beyond recognition. I lost cleanly. I lost to the point where there isn't even a little bit of room to recover. Why would such a man appear? Why is this man so perfect? Even if he is just sitting there, I feel that he is a few levels higher than me. Why is that stalwart figure so outstanding? Every single word pierced deeply into my heart, causing me to feel endless pain. Your Excellency President, we cannot be so passive. Wu Xiangwen, who was at the side, said gravely. How can the entire Federation lower its head in front of an outsider? That is absolutely not allowed. There must be someone who stands out. Felisa shook his head and said powerlessly. Is there a better way? The other party is too strong. There is no need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Your Excellency President, our Blue Blaze planet has never lost, and there is no precedent of surrendering without a fight. Wu Xiangwen said gravely, his gaze deeply looking at the man who was sitting on the throne. Felisa took a deep breath. Then which one of you is willing to fight for the Federation? The three martial kings became silent. Space Administration's Chief Ji Yang also became silent. Meanwhile, Wu Xiangwen cupped his hands and said, Your Excellency President, please allow this old man to atone for his crimes. It just so happens that I can also take revenge for my disciple. Felisa was very gratified. Only Wu Xiangwen is reliable at the crucial moment. The others don't even dare to, not to mention my own self-defense forces. They are currently trembling in fear. Elder Wu, you are the one who should receive the respect of everyone in Blue Blaze Planet. Felisa said gravely. At such a crucial moment, only the older generation stood out. How worthy of respect. However, it is precisely these people who have always been low profile. The world only knows of the three martial kings, but look at the current situation. The three martial kings are trembling in fear. Wu Xiangwen's expression was grim as he cupped his hands and said, For the Federation. This is such a morale-boosting sentence, causing Felisa to tremble. Isn't everything I am doing for the entire Federation? Felisa, who was originally in low spirits, gradually became confident. His back also straightened up. He immediately raised the hammer in his hand and shouted, For the Federation. All of the soldiers trembled violently. Their bodies that were originally trembling in fear calmed down, revealing the imposing manner that a soldier should have. Soon after, they roared, For the Federation. Tens of thousands of people shouted in unison, shaking the heavens. In the face of a powerful enemy, the Federation did not cower. They used their own actions to prove everything. Regardless of whether it was the spectators around them or the people watching the video from all over the world, they all clenched their right fists and placed them on their left chests. For the Federation. For the Federation. For the Federation. A deep and loud sound spread throughout the entire blue ardent star. This was something that had never happened since the founding of the nation. Everyone's blood was ignited at this moment, and they all wished they could join in the battle, sacrificing his life for the Federation. Reclaim the dignity of the Federation. Annihilate the enemy for the Federation. With the sudden rise of the president's aura, the murderous aura at the scene became much stronger. It could be said that he had gained back some face. Yi Hua looked at everything that was happening in a very natural manner, and he wasn't frightened by the imposing aura that the other party emitted. In actuality, he had seen this kind of scene too many times. There are some vile people among humans, but when it comes to the moment of life and death, they seem to be able to instantly unite together. No matter how strong the enemy is, they will still use all of their strength to protect their home. But I can tell you, if it was someone else, they might have a chance, but the one you met is me. Struggling would only bring about greater despair. This was the first time that Qingye and Donghuang Baiji had seen such a scene, and they could feel that the battle blood within their bodies had been ignited, and they really wanted to go down and fight. Donghuang Li's little hands were starting to itch. However, since her daddy didn't say anything, Donghuang Li didn't dare to act recklessly. Shi Tingting was almost stunned by the other party's imposing manner. It turned out that the people of the Federation could be so united. This was the first time she realized it. Wu Xiangwen walked out of the group slowly. His aura was majestic, and his body was emitting dense spiritual energy. He shouted, "You dare to fight me?" Yihua looked at the old man coldly, then waved his hand. Among the several tens of thousands of seven-colored warriors, one actually walked out. A light breeze blew over. It was not very cold, but for some reason, some people felt their hearts turn cold. This was absolutely ironic. This was a great humiliation. The other side actually sent a small soldier to fight. What right do they have to humiliate the people of the Federation like this? Wu Xiangwen looked coldly at the rainbow-colored warrior who was walking towards him from the front row. He was the same as the others, not the leader. He wasn't even a general, just a small soldier. He felt that his old face had been slapped by the other party. The other party actually sent a small soldier to humiliate me. The president and the others who were at the back had gloomy expressions on their faces. This kind of action of the other party is a deep look of contempt. Right now, we can only rely on Wu Xiangwen. I have to ruthlessly strike at the other party's contempt, and let that man know that the entire Federation isn't a place that can be easily provoked. Right now, Wu Xiangwen was thinking the same thing as well. His face that was filled with wrinkles was moved, and his aged body slightly leaned forward, giving off the appearance of a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. "Pull out your weapon." However, the rainbow-colored warrior remained unmoved. He stood straight and tall in his original spot, not moving at all. Swoosh! A red blade appeared in Wu Xiangwen's hand. A strange red flame ignited on the blade, and the temperature of the scene instantly rose by more than 10 degrees. Immediately, a berserk killing intent emerged, and a violent gale abruptly arose. Wu Xiangwen's eyes shone with a strong brilliance. Wu Xiangwen, who had never been humiliated before, exploded at this moment. Boundless anger was burning his brain, and his entire chest felt like it was going to explode. I am going to use absolute power to kill this man in front of me. Fate Annihilation Holy Spirit. Following Wu Xiangwen's shout, a dazzling saber light rushed up. The red flames on the saber's blade turned fiery red. Astral winds swept out in all directions with his feet as the center. Even the sky gradually darkened. Seeing this scene, everyone seemed to see hope. Such a powerful attack will definitely be able to kill a few thousand people. The ones who were the most shocked were the president and the 3 great martial kings beside him. Old Wu is about to break through to the martial king realm. Gaohan muttered, feeling incredulous. Felisa heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of Old Wu, he finally released his full strength. Amazing! Ha! Wu Xiangwen shouted angrily, and his entire body was instantly enveloped in red flames like a ball of raging fire. His entire aura reached a peak state. That ball of red flames turned into a huge blade and attacked the rainbow-colored warrior with a scorching aura. The ground was instantly scorched, and even the soil was emitting flames. Such a move caused everyone to be dumbfounded. So powerful. Too powerful. Instant kill this group of trash. The Federation is mighty. Chapter 479. Boom. The red flames covered the sky and the earth, instantly enveloping all the 7-colored warriors. The huge spiritual pressure caused the entire ground to tremble, and cracks appeared. The air was burning and seething, and everyone in the Federation stood up. They stared fixedly at the screen. Elder Wu had actually used a single move to instantly kill tens of thousands of soldiers. Too amazing. This was true strength. Cheers rang out from every corner of Blue Blaze Planet. The warriors of the Federation had used their actions to prove that outsiders like you could only wait to be killed. Under Old Wu's attack, turn all of you into dregs. Felisa was also stunned by Wu Xiangwen's strength. This move was simply too ferocious, and it had finally saved the Federation's face. It turned out that the enemy was not as terrifying as they had imagined. It was just a bluff, and there was nothing to be afraid of. However, after a while, everyone's joyful smiles froze. He stared at the screen in disbelief. How is this possible? Such a huge fire actually did not engulf those soldiers. The red flames gradually disappeared, and all the 7-colored warriors reappeared on the scene. They didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort, and there wasn't even a trace of burn on them. He was still standing tall and straight, not moving an inch. Everyone exclaimed that it was impossible. They must have definitely cheated. This was all an illusion. It was all a lie. Even if the warriors at the back were fine, the warrior who was fighting alone would definitely be smashed to pieces. However, when the red flames completely disappeared, everyone on Blue Blaze Planet couldn't accept it. Why was this happening? How could a small soldier have such great strength? He actually grabbed the blade with one hand, and was unscathed. That's right. The rainbow-colored warrior's right hand was tightly holding onto the blade in Wu Xiangwen's hand. He didn't even raise his head. It was as if this kind of attack couldn't even make him think of raising his head. Wu Xiangwen stared blankly at his saber and his opponent's helmet. He appeared to be in disbelief and inexplicable fear. He wanted to pull his saber away, but he found that his saber was tightly grasped by him, and he couldn't move at all. Bang! The rainbow warrior drew his saber. The speed at which he drew the sword was so fast that even Wu Xiangwen did not notice it. Puff! The blade in the 7-colored warrior's hand sank into Wu Xiangwen's body and pierced through his heart. The scene froze. The rainbow-colored warrior grabbed the blade with his right hand and pierced through their hope with his left. What a simple move. This kind of small fry had defeated the most powerful person in the Federation. At the same time, it had once again crushed everyone's confidence. Blood flowed down the rainbow blade, but Wu Xiangwen stared at the tallest man, as if he wanted to kill him with his eyes. The rainbow-colored warrior casually swung his hand, and Wu Xiangwen's aged body flew out like a cannonball, smashing a huge pit on the ground. With a turn of his body, he walked into the group and sheathed his saber. It was as if nothing had happened. However, looking at the several tens of thousands of rainbow-colored warriors, everyone felt despair. They could not even find the rainbow-colored warrior from before. They were too similar. Was this the strength of a soldier? He had killed the strongest person in the Federation with a single slash. If every single soldier had such strength, how could the Federation resist? There were still 2 mystical dragons eyeing them covetously. As the president of the Federation, Felisa had yet to react. Everything had happened too quickly. Old Wu had been killed by the other party in an instant. He didn't even have the chance to react. It would be fine if that man did such a thing, but the problem was, it was a soldier who did it. Looking at the rainbow-colored warrior not far away, the president who had a domineering aura just a moment ago felt a deep blow. There was no hope of winning at all. It was my lack of consideration that caused Old Wu to be sacrificed for nothing. The 3 great martial kings were once again intimidated. They did not dare to have any thoughts of resisting. Ji Yang, who was at the side, was also dumbstruck. He was completely unable to accept the truth in front of his eyes. This is too fake. This is completely cheating. Yi Hua slowly stood up and looked down at the common people. Don't make any more pointless struggles, because what you all have seen is only the tip of the iceberg. If there were still any doubts in the past, then no one dared to doubt Yi Hua's words now. Because what he said was the truth. There was no exaggeration at all. This is a demon. Why would such a demon appear? That's right, why is there no justice to deal with this demon? People began to place their hopes on the heavens, hoping that the heavens would send a powerful warrior to save the common people. However, that was impossible. Even if there was, it would only increase unnecessary casualties. What exactly are you trying to do? Felisa shouted out gravely. He was completely unable to calm down and had lost the calm attitude that a president should have. Yi Hua said faintly, "Admit defeat." The current Yi Hua would not start a massacre. There was no need for that. After all, he was not the kind of person who would willfully kill the innocent. Admit defeat? Felisa muttered. The Federation has never had a president who admitted defeat before. Yi Hua said once again, "If you admit defeat, then you will be able to save everyone on this planet, if not." This was the warning from the Supreme Overlord. Felisa understood what Yi Hua meant. If I don't admit defeat, then this army will wantonly massacre on my planet. Why is there still such an inhumane person under the heavens? The heavens are so unfair. President, please think thrice. President, you can't admit defeat. That's right, if we were to admit defeat, we would not have any face left. The three martial kings began speaking after the fact. Although they kept saying that they would not admit defeat, in actuality, the meaning behind their words was, quickly admit defeat, we don't have any hope of winning at all. The audience that was watching the video looked at their president, thinking in their hearts that their president had defeated the invaders, but at the same time, their brain's feedback was very real. If we can't win, then we should just be a coward first, then we will just have to find another chance to win. Everyone on the planet was waiting for the president's answer, because the president's answer was related to everyone's life. It is time to make a choice. I admit defeat. 3 words floated out from Felisa's mouth. Although everyone wanted to hear it very much, after hearing it, they felt a deep sense of humiliation. However, in front of this kind of absolute strength, what else could they do? Their president had made the wisest choice. He didn't fly into a rage out of humiliation, and used his dignity to exchange for a disaster. And when Felisa said those 3 words, he immediately felt a wave of dizziness. Ji Yong, who was at the side, hurriedly held onto his president, and his gaze did not have any trace of contempt. Instead, it was filled with even more admiration. This kind of pressure was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. As the president of the most advanced civilization in the Milky Way galaxy, for him to say those 3 words, it could be seen just how big of a blow he received. Is this the attitude you all have when admitting defeat? Yihua asked coldly. You all confidently charged over and wanted to kill my entire family, and you all only said those 3 words. Chapter 480. Felisa looked at Yihua, who was in the sky, and seemed to understand what Yihua meant. He pushed Ji Yong, who was beside him, away. Your Excellency President! Ji Yong shouted out. Felisa muttered. For the entire cerulean planet, I have no choice but to do this. Right after he finished speaking, Felisa knelt down onto the ground and lowered his noble head. He completely didn't have the posture that he had a moment ago. Seeing that their president knelt down, everyone choked with sobs, and some of the ladies even started crying nonstop. On the plaza of the various main cities, as well as in the various cities, voices rang out. Your Excellency President, good job. Your Excellency President. We still have the strength to fight. Your Excellency President actually knelt down for us, woo-woo. The 3 martial kings behind Felisa cried out in surprise. Your Excellency President, you mustn't do this. You guys go up then. Felisa shouted out angrily. These 3 martial kings only know how to talk and not how to do it. When the 3 martial kings heard what the president said, they immediately went silent. I can't afford to go up. I really can't afford to go up. If I go up, I will die. Yihua, who was standing in front of the throne, paused for a moment, then said faintly, My family is only here for a vacation. Since you have admitted defeat sincerely, I naturally won't make things difficult for you. The hell? This isn't considered ugly? Then what is considered ugly? Yihua expressed that Heaven's imperial city is the real ugly one. However, hearing that Yihua didn't plan to pursue the matter, everyone let out a breath of relief. This person isn't that bad after all. Some people even felt that Yihua and his family were only here for a vacation, and the president came to snatch it after knowing that the other party had a cosmos artifact. If that's the case, it is the president's fault. Ji Yong immediately helped the president up, meaning that it's fine if I just kneel down. I can't keep kneeling like this. Meanwhile, Yihua pulled Shi Tingting out and said faintly, From now on, Shi Tingting will be my representative. Felisa thought that Yihua wanted to snatch away his position as the president, but he didn't expect that Yihua would just push out a woman to be his representative. Everyone disperse. After doing everything, Yihua didn't have the mood to continue. One of the purposes of this trip had already been achieved. Along with a wave of Yihua's hand, the rainbow-colored divine dragon, rainbow-colored warrior, and that majestic throne all turned into smoke and disappeared into the horizon. This move shocked everyone. Were those illusions created by the clouds? How could they be so powerful? Felisa was also a little confused. So they really were all colorful clouds. The three great martial kings were also wondering if this was a good opportunity. After using such a powerful spell, he definitely could not use it a second time. However, he didn't mention it. What if someone else had enough? That would be courting death. He immediately dispelled this terrifying thought. Felisa cupped his hands towards Yihua, and all of the soldiers once again stepped onto the warship and disappeared into the sky. There was only one thought in their minds. They were finally able to leave this place alive. How lucky! As soon as the president left, everyone hurriedly left. In the future, if they ran into them, they should scram as far as possible. Who knew how many people would die if they lost their temper? In actuality, even if Yihua didn't take the initiative to create trouble, there would always be someone who came to create trouble for him. If Yihua didn't take the initiative to create trouble, there would be even more trouble in the future. At the very least, it would be like this in Blue Blaze Star. After all, Yihua was here for a vacation, and he didn't want to let trouble get close to him. The family slowly descended. Shi Tingting went back first. Her brain had too much information to digest. Dong Huangli and Brett walked into the house, not disturbing Yihua. Yihua took the opportunity to hug onto the waists of his two wives. Looking at their dazed expressions, he felt that he might be able to have a beautiful life tonight. Upon thinking about how it would look if he were to place Qingye and Donghuang Baiji on the bed together, Yihua couldn't hold himself back anymore. Don't you two want to say anything? After waiting for a long time, seeing that the two of them still didn't speak, Yihua took the initiative to ask. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji could be seen taking a look at each other, then standing at the side, they shouted out, "Hubby 666, Hubby 666, Yihua laughed bitterly. These two really know how to shout 666. However, what I, the Supreme Overlord, want is not this. Hugging onto the two little century eggs, Yihua said lightly, "Don't go out today, the two of you accompany me." Qingye and Donghuang Baiji still don't know what their husband is thinking. He is wholeheartedly thinking of carrying the two of us on the bed and bullying us together. However, I just can't get over the hurdle in my heart. Although I want to satisfy my husband's desire, I am still very opposed to this kind of method. Seeing that the two wives didn't speak anymore, Yihua knew that they were still not willing to do that. Sigh, life is so depressing. Yihua let out a long sigh. Other emperors all have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, but look at me, I only have the two of you. Can't you just satisfy my small wish? Donghuang Baiji said tenderly, "Yihua, give us a bit of time." "That's right, don't force us," Qingye said pitifully. She is willing to do anything for her husband, but she is very opposed to this. "Then how long do you think we need to wait?" Yihua asked gravely. It is fine to use violence to press them down, but Yihua wants to use virtue to win them over, just like what happened just now. Hubby sob sob sob, hubby sob sob sob. When the two women acted coquettishly together, even Yihua was a bit unable to resist. I, the Supreme Overlord, am able to win against everyone in the world. The only people I cannot afford to offend are my two wives. With helplessness, Yihua carried his wives and walked into the house. The tour still has to continue. Although the tour still has to continue, the places that only Yihua appeared in were originally packed with people, and all of them ran away. Only Donghuangli's 2 new friends, Fei Bai and Zhixingyi, did not run away. Sometimes Donghuangli would even go out with them to play. A week passed by in a blink of an eye. To be honest, I have not even finished touring around Long City. This small city is already so big, wouldn't a main city be even bigger? There's also the Imperial City, the center of the entire Cerulean Star. Yihua felt that he had to increase his speed, and head straight to the Imperial City to take a look. After all, that was the capital of Cerulean Star. Shi Tingting did not follow Yihua to the Imperial City, because her main focus was on Long City, which was Yihua's base. Seeing that his daughter and her new friends were reluctant to part, Yihua chuckled lightly. Big brother Fei, big sister Qingyi, you two must stay together. Ali still wants to come and drink your wedding wine. Donghuangli held onto the two's hands and persuaded earnestly. Zhixingyi's face slightly reddened, while Fei Bai had an awkward look on his face. Being persuaded by a child, How can I not feel awkward? Big brother Fei, you have to be more proactive. If not, you will not have a wife in the future. Big sister Qingyi, just give big brother Fei a chance. Dong Huangli persuaded. Chapter 481. This is a good thing. This means that Ali cares about others. Yihua said faintly. That's true. Looking at little Ali's serious expression, it was really funny. It was as if others would feel sorry for her if they didn't become a couple. Big brother Fei, Ali is truly worried about you. If big sister Qingyi runs away with someone else in the future, you will definitely regret it. Seeing that Fei Bai still didn't take any action, Dong Huangli couldn't help but want to provoke Fei Bai. Needless to say, this provocation was very useful. Fei Bai hugged Zish Qingyi's shoulder. Ali, don't worry. Brother Fei won't disappoint you. Zish Qingyi struggled a little and glared fiercely at Fei Bai. How dare he act like this in front of a child? Sister Qingyi, brother Fei is actually pretty good. Ali congratulates you too. As he spoke, he even cupped his hands together. Zish Qingyi squatted down, then lightly hugged onto Dong Huangli. Although the time that Zish Qingyi spent with Dong Huangli was very short, Zish Qingyi truly liked Dong Huangli. On the surface, Dong Huangli looked like a child, but in actuality, she was very sensible. Ali, I will miss you. Dong Huangli consoled Ali, and Ali will miss you too. This time, after going to the imperial city, the whole family planned to go back and not return to Long'an City. Thus, this could be considered as a farewell. Sir. At this moment, Shi Tingting walked over slowly. She was dressed very beautifully today. Yihua nodded his head. In the future, I will leave this place to you. Make use of the resources that you have in your hands to properly develop this place. Sir, I know. I won't let you down. Shi Tingting felt that her husband's family were all good people, and she didn't understand those who were not good at all. At this time, Brett also appeared. She had just gone to pay her respects to her grandfather who had raised her. After leaving this time, it was likely that she would rarely come back. All right, let's go. Yihua shouted out faintly, then walked onto the flagship. Dong Huangli, who was being carried by her mother, waved her hand towards Fei Bai and Zish Qingyi. Goodbye, Bai Ali. Everyone watched as the spaceship disappeared from their sight and let out a deep breath. Let go. Zish Qingyi said coldly. Fei Bai instantly cowered and retracted his hand. However, he still smiled and said, Qingyi, I think Ali is right. You'd better go get a room. With a cold snort, Zish Qingyi turned and left. Fei Bai was very depressed. He was still thinking about the number of times he had booked a room. He was really just playing cards and did not do anything. Shi Tingting's eyes were filled with determination. The next time she saw Mr., she would definitely let him see her achievements and make him proud. Sitting inside the flagship version of the luxurious flying ship, Yihua leaned onto the soft sofa and enjoyed the massage from the Empress. Yihua felt incomparably comfortable. However, at the same time, Yihua's brows wrinkled. Qinya, who was currently peeling the grape, discovered her husband's expression. There are really very few things that can make her husband frown. Something must have happened. Dong Huang Baiji saw it too, and she asked hurriedly, Yihua, what happened? Yihua did not say anything and listened to Wei Chang's report. After a long while, Yihua said gravely, We will be going back now. The tour will be temporarily suspended. Yihua, what happened? Dong Huang Baiji asked anxiously. Dong Huangli was also frowning, just like her father. Brett, on the other hand, was a little happy. It would be best if he could go back early. He wanted to ask that swindler. Baiji, the news about Voidless Realm's longevity fruit has been leaked. Yihua said gravely. Dong Huang Baiji cried out in shock. She found it hard to believe. How is this possible? Who leaked the news? Dong Huang Baiji asked hurriedly. The reason why Yihua frowned was because he didn't know who leaked the news about Voidless Realm's longevity fruit. Wei Chang and Zhu Tian weren't able to find out who leaked the news about Voidless Realm's longevity fruit. The enemy hiding in the dark is very cunning. The enemy actually used the move that I originally prepared to deal with them. Let's talk about it after we return. Yihua said coldly, and the few of them instantly disappeared from the interior of the flying ship. This flagship version of the flying ship might have to keep flying until its energy is depleted. Earth. Long and City Leisure Bar, bedroom on the second floor. Everyone returned to where they started, and there was still a big suitcase on the ground. The clothes inside the suitcase had not been cleaned up yet. Yehua, I will go back and take a look first. Dong Huang Baiji said anxiously. Yihua nodded his head. Qinya followed Dong Huang Baiji and went back to help. And even the little fellow, Dong Huang Li, went back to help her mommy. Right now, Yehua gathered his 7 deadly sins. One reason was to ask them about the situation, and the other was to welcome Brett back. When Yi Zizi saw Brett, her jaw almost dropped onto the ground and she asked exaggeratedly, "You are Brett?" Brett rolled his eyes at Yi Zizi. This Yi Zizi really didn't change at all. She still likes to make a fuss over nothing. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi discovered that Brett also didn't change. He had always been this cool. Brett, why did your hair become white? The color of your eyeballs also changed. And more importantly, why did you become shorter? Even your breasts are gone. Ha 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 ha. Yi Zizi laughed until she was rolling on the ground. Finally, she seized the opportunity to tease Brett. This Brett, in the past he was so sexy, everything was bigger than me. Look at now, everything is smaller than me. How can Yi Zizi not laugh until the sky is rolling on the ground? Brett ignored Yi Zizi's ridicule. She is just a child. I don't need to lower myself to her level. Wei Chong and Lai Gu rushed over at the same time. And when they saw the shorty Brett, they were both stupefied. Brett, did you go through puberty again? In actuality, Lai Gu had feelings for Brett in the past, but Brett didn't even look at Lai Gu and only liked Ju Tian. None of your business. Brett said faintly. Lai Gu immediately shut up. Her temper is still as explosive as before. If she saw Ju Tian right now, would she go berserk? Wei Chong smiled but didn't say anything. When Ju Tian, who was dressed in a white western suit, appeared, one could clearly feel the anger that Brett was emitting out. When Ju Tian, who was dressed in a white western suit, appeared, he was also very shocked. His Honor didn't even tell me that Brett has returned. Ju Tian didn't pay attention to Brett. Meanwhile, Brett also didn't pay attention to Ju Tian. Meanwhile, the other people who were sandwiched in the middle could feel the negative energy that was being transmitted between them. Yihua sat on the high chair at the bar counter, poured himself a cup of wine, then asked faintly, "Just what is going on? You all actually didn't receive any news about this matter." His Honor was angry, and everyone immediately kneeled onto the ground. "Your Honor, please calm down. Subordinate has failed in handling this matter." "Have you discovered anything yet?" Yihua asked coldly. Ju Tian said respectfully, "Your Honor, subordinate feels that we should properly deal with Voidless Realms matter. Right now, regardless of whether it is the south or the north, everyone is saying that Voidless Realm is secretly hiding secret treasures. Especially those small families in the north, they are making a huge fuss about this matter. And it seems like they have been deceived. They are all people who forget morality at the sight of profit." Lai Gu snorted. Chapter 482. Conquering people with violence was not what Yihua wanted. He wanted to conquer people with virtue. Yihua took a sip of wine. "Where did the news come from?" Ju Tian said gravely, "Your Honor, the news came from the aristocratic family of the north, Guan family." "But your wife's Guan family." Right after Yihua said this, he felt that Brett was about to go berserk. "Your Honor, that is my maid." Ju Tian hurriedly explained. "That's right, she is a maid." Continue. Ju Tian let out a breath. "It's just that the entire Guan family was exterminated, and Guan Yenshin had always been with me, thus she managed to escape." This made Yihua very surprised. The Guan family of the north was also an aristocratic family, and their strength was not to be looked down upon. Seems like the opponent is quite powerful, and the news that they released is clearly aimed at me. Interesting, this is much more interesting than those arrogant and conceited people. Knowing that they are not my opponent, they decided to attack me from another angle. I like this kind of opponent, and only by defeating this kind of opponent will I be able to show how high my intelligence is. Dong dong dong. The sound of footsteps could be heard coming from the stairs, and Qin Yutong walked down while yawning. Everyone looked towards Qin Yutong, and Qin Yutong also noticed that her brother-in-law was having a mobilization meeting. I will only take a bag of spicy gluten. You all can continue. I will be leaving first. After finished speaking, Qin Yutong didn't even take a bag of spicy gluten, turned around and ran. Yihua took out a bag of spicy gluten. Your spicy gluten. Qin Yutong could be seen standing on the stairs and saying sweetly, your spicy gluten. This was a perfect interaction between brother-in-law and sister-in-law, causing the 5 subordinates to blush with shame. Seems like there will definitely be one more wife in the future. It is just a matter of time. Placing the spicy gluten at the side, Yihua asked again, do you know who did it? Or the suspect? Zhu Tian shook his head then said, all of them were killed with a single slash, very nimble. When did this happen? Last night, and we only received the news today. Zhu Tian said. When Guan Yanxin heard that her entire family was exterminated, she fainted on the spot. Even when she woke up, she was still bawling loudly. When she finally stabilized, Guan Yanxin was accompanied by Dongfang Yuer. Wei Chong said respectfully, Your Honor, the other party's intention is very obvious. They want to release the news about the longevity fruit. Then, why did you kill them to silence them? Yihua asked. All of His Honor's subordinates were startled. His Honor's examination is coming again. Brett didn't understand the situation yet, so he remained silent. However, this time, Yi Zizi suddenly raised her small hand and said sweetly, Your Honor, I know. Oh, tell me about it then. Yihua didn't expect that Yi Zizi would still be the first to answer his question. Yi Zizi said with a smile, in actuality, their real purpose is to exterminate Guan family, and coincidentally, they found out about the whereabouts of the longevity fruit. However, they are rather afraid of Voidless Realm, and thus, they can deduce that Voidless Realm's strength isn't that strong. Thus, they decided to spread rumors to attack Voidless Realm. Yi Zizi's explanation stunned everyone present. What an incisive reasoning. Even Yihua was shocked. Yi Zizi, who has never used her brain, is actually able to say such a thing right now. This is simply too amazing. She can't be a fake, right? Wei Chong and Absolute Heaven agreed with Yi Zizi's conjecture. Lai Gu, go and look for those corpses and see who they met with when they were alive. Yihua said faintly. Yes. Zhu Tian, continue to investigate. I really want to see who exactly is the one that is pulling the strings from behind. Yes. Wei Chong, pay attention to Nanbei family's movements. See what actions they will take after finding out about the longevity fruit. Yes. After waiting for a long time, Yi Zizi still didn't receive any missions. Thus she asked hurriedly, Your Honor, what about me? Continue to go to school. Yihua took a look at Brett. I have to make some arrangements. Meanwhile, Brett took the initiative and said, Your Honor, I wish to investigate together with Zhu Tian. Your Honor, I alone am enough. Zhu Tian said hurriedly. Yihua was a bit vexed. In the past, it was still fine. Zhu Tian didn't have a chance to find a woman, and thus Brett didn't have a chance to talk about it. But right now, Zhu Tian got 2 women at once. It would be weird if Brett didn't make a fuss. How am I going to appease my subordinates? This is also a problem. If not, should I order Zhu Tian to marry Brett? This is a bit difficult. After all, both parties must be willing to marry each other. I might as well let them live together for a period of time. Perhaps Zhu Tian has already gotten over it, and might even accept Brett. If that happens, they will stop messing around. Brett, I agree to your request. You and Zhu Tian will investigate together. Brett knelt on the ground and said respectfully, Thank you, Your Honor, for fulfilling my request. These 5 words are so destructive. It seems as if they are going to cut Zhu Tian into pieces. Meanwhile, Zhu Tian's expression finally changed. This Brett is truly not someone that I can afford to offend. All right, today's meeting will end here. You can disperse now. Yihua waved his hand, then walked up to the 2nd floor. Meanwhile, Wei Chong, Lai Gu and Yi Zizi immediately left. The 2 of them still have a lot of things to talk about. The shorty Brett glared at Zhu Tian, while Zhu Tian didn't give Brett a chance to look at him. Zhu Tian, what do you mean by that? Brett shouted out. Just that, for Brett to say something like that with his current body, he seemed a bit too mature. Ju Tian let out a breath. Brett, it has already been a few hundred years, you still haven't gotten over it. Ju Tian, since I, Brett, have taken a fancy to you, I won't change my mind. Brett still maintained his firm conviction. Even after so many years have passed, his conviction still didn't waver in the slightest. Ju Tian seemed to know that Brett would say this. Just what exactly have you taken a fancy to? I will change, all right? If you become a female cat, I will let you go. F***K, this is truly impossible to change. Seeing that Ju Tian didn't say anything, Brett questioned. I heard that you have 2 wives. They are maids. Ju Tian added. They are indeed maids. All right. If they are maids, then did you touch them? I did. Furthermore, Ju Tian did. Brett's pupils could be seen immediately shrinking, and his entire body disappeared from the spot. Ju Tian paused for a moment, then hurriedly dodged. Brett, have you gone mad? Ju Tian shouted out coldly. This Brett actually wants to cut me up. Brett held onto a dagger and said eerily. Since I can't use it, other women can forget about using it as well. Ju Tian. Right now Ju Tian was in despair. I didn't expect that Brett would be this crazy. Brett, this is his honor's place. If you break anything, you will be punished by his honor. Fine, I will punish you. Just wait until I cut you up, you heartless bastard. I will be willing to punish you with anything. You. Chapter 483. Absolute Heaven was powerless to refute Brett's words. In actuality, Yihua had been standing at the top and listening to the conversation. As expected, Brett wouldn't be able to take it. This Ju Tian is also an honest person. Would he die if he spoke a lie? This person's personality is a bit similar to the Supreme Overlord's. He would never lie. Hearing Brett's question, Absolute Heaven said in a deep voice, Brett, we are all adults. I'm not. Little Brett immediately denied. He was still a child. Looking at that small body, Ju Tian said, all right, even if your body isn't, your heart is. Can you use the method of an adult to solve the problem? All right. Die. Either I die, or you live. Brett's big tears finally fell uncontrollably. This swindler liked women from the very beginning. He actually lied to him for hundreds of years. Absolute Heaven was also enraged, angrily saying, Brett, can't you be a little more rational? Don't get angry at the slightest provocation. Look at how gentle you is. Yihua, who was upstairs, shook his head. You are showing off your love in front of Brett, Absolute Heavens. Did a dog eat your brain? You think I have a bad temper, but you say other women are gentle. Absolute Heaven. I will perish together with you today. Brett's left hand froze. The white jade bow appeared in his hand, and as he placed his right hand on the bowstring, an earth-shattering aura erupted. He's truly insane. Absolute Heaven muttered. If this arrow were to be shot out, it would cause a lot of casualties, and Yihua had no choice but to stop it. Enough. An awe-inspiring aura entered their ears. Absolute Heaven, who had originally assumed a defensive stance, stood up straight. Meanwhile, the colored glass arrow on Brett's bow had yet to dissipate, and it was still aimed at Absolute Heaven. Yihua's expression sunk as he shouted out, Brett, put it down. Your Honor, Ju Tian is too much of a bully. Brett shouted out while choking with sobs, and tears of grievance flowed out from Brett's eyes. Put down your weapon first. We can talk things out. Brett sobbed and shouted out, Your Honor, Ju Tian isn't willing to talk to me properly. I ordered him to speak properly. Hearing this, Brett slowly put down the white jade bow in his hand. Yihua was also vexed. If it was me, I would also choose someone who is gentle, and not this kind of person who has a bad temper. It would seem that Absolute Heaven thought so as well. I, the Supreme Overlord, do not wish for any disagreements to appear within the group, or for any other matters to cause our relationship to break apart. Yihua said faintly while looking at the two of them. Absolute Heaven and Brett lowered their heads in silence. Brett, are you going to marry Ju Tian? Yes, Brett answered decisively without any hesitation. Yihua nodded his head. In actuality, for one of the 7 deadly sins to have such a joyous occasion, it was already very good. The main point was Zhu Tian's attitude. Absolute heaven, do you like Brett? Answer truthfully. I don't like it. Absolute heaven's reply was also very decisive. Brett was confused. He turned around and asked, why don't you like me but 2 human women? His Honor requested it. Brett turned his head and looked towards His Honor. If His Honor was the one who gave the order, I can still understand. Damn it, it's your subordinate who did something wrong, and you're actually trying to push the blame onto me. In actuality, what Zhu Tian said was the truth. Back then, Yihua's order was just like that. Everything had to be reasonable and reasonable. Zhu Tian had no choice but to use Lai Gu's method to subdue Guan Yanxin and Dongfang Yuan. Although Zhu Tian did it with an ulterior motive, Zhu Tian seemed to have fallen in love with that feeling. In any case, looking at Guan Yanxin and Dongfang Yuan begging for forgiveness, Zhu Tian felt especially refreshed. Especially Dongfang Yuan, Zhu Tian felt more and more refreshed, to the point where Zhu Tian was a bit infatuated with her. However, if Zhu Tian wanted to be like Brett, it would simply be impossible. After all, with Brett's powerful physique, he would definitely not reveal an appearance that would make Zhu Tian feel very refreshed. Furthermore, Brett's temper was also bad, and he liked to be a queen. How could he be as obedient as Dongfang Yuan and Guan Yanxin? If it was Brett, Yihua would definitely be a female knight. In actuality, Zhu Tian had never liked Brett's personality. Now that he had tasted the gentleness of a human woman, he disliked Brett even more. Brett, I didn't think too much about this matter, and Zhu Tian had no choice but to take action in order to complete the mission that I gave him. For the sake of the team's harmony, Zhu Tian felt that he had to explain Zhu Tian's actions. Since His Honor had spoken, Brett glared at Zhu Tian and said, is what His Honor said truly true? Yes, Zhu Tian said faintly. Then, after you complete the mission, kill the 2 of them. Brett chose to forgive Zhu Tian. After all, this was a mission that His Honor had given to him. Impossible, Zhu Tian said resolutely. You just like them, you lied to me. Brett shouted out coldly, and the white jade bow in his hand appeared once again. Zhu Tian was very annoyed, and he said straightforwardly, that's right. I just like them. Zhu Tian, you weren't like this in the past. Is it because I became small and no longer good-looking? Just wait for a few more years. I will still be very sexy. Brett's tone could be seen immediately changing, and a pleading tone could be heard. Zhu Tian shook his head, then shouted out gravely, Brett, it has already been a few hundred years. Could it be that you still can't see it? I don't like you at all. Following Zhu Tian's words, the atmosphere seemed to have become still. Brett looked at Zhu Tian in disbelief. Although he had said such words before in the past, this was the first time that Brett heard such a tone from Zhu Tian. Brett's entire body was on the verge of collapsing, and he felt as if he had been abandoned by the entire world. Brett was very sad about his grandfather's death, and before he could even finish feeling sad, he was cruelly rejected by the man that he liked. Brett was unable to endure the consecutive blows. Brett's white hair could be seen gradually turning black, and his originally green eyes had also turned black. His small body was growing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye, and in an instant, he became an enchanting woman that was 8 meters tall. There wasn't a single trace of fat on his body, and those towering breasts of his, they were simply enough to make others blush with shame. That exquisite face of hers was enough to make all men go crazy, as expected of a female elf. Due to his clothes bursting, Brett was currently completely naked. Zhu Tian didn't even take a look at Brett. Meanwhile, Yihua let out a light sigh, then took out a blanket and covered Brett's body. God wanted Brett to start anew, but I didn't expect that in the end, he would still become a dark elf. If I had known, I would have let Brett stay in Blue Blaze Planet. Zhu Tian, are you not even willing to take a look at me right now? Brett asked coldly. Zhu Tian stood respectfully, then said faintly, Brett, we are all His Honor's subordinates in front of His Honor. Please maintain some respect. Chapter 484. Looking at Brett, who had disappeared, Yihua's expression wasn't very good, but he still didn't say anything. Your Honor, please forgive this subordinate's incompetence. Yihua shook his head. This isn't related to you. Brett is too stubborn. If he isn't able to overcome this hurdle. Zhu Tian went into a daze. Is His Honor trying to expel Brett from the 7 deadly sins? Your Honor, although Brett is a bit stubborn and has a bad temper, he is absolutely loyal to Your Honor. All the missions were completed with flying colors. Yihua pinched onto the bridge of his nose and said indifferently, I naturally know of Brett's loyalty, and you shouldn't have provoked her like that just now. This subordinate is only speaking the truth. I hope that Your Honor can forgive me. Forget it, forget it. I don't want to get involved in the matters between you two. Yihua stood up and said faintly, this Brett's stubbornness is even harder to deal with than Yi Zizi's stubbornness. This isn't something that can be changed in an instant. Forcefully suppressing it would only make the situation even more complicated. Originally, Absolute Heaven had thought that Brett's return would be a joyous occasion. He never imagined that things would turn out like this. If he tried to accept Brett, maybe Brett would become an obedient woman after marriage. After all, a woman could be coaxed. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were 2 very good examples of what Yihua could do. After all, if you don't coax a woman, she'll do whatever you want. Suddenly, Zhu Tian's expression changed. Your Honor, subordinate needs to leave immediately. Yihua turned his head around and asked, what happened? Brett took you away. Absolute Heaven said in a deep voice. Just now Guan Yanxin had called out to him. After finished speaking, Zhu Tian disappeared. Yihua let out a light sigh, then followed after Zhu Tian, and went to take a look at what was going on. Not only did something happen to this wife's family, but something happened to me as well. In Zijin City, the original Xiao family's residence had already been changed to the Eastern family's residence. Very quickly, Zhu Tian appeared at the scene. Zhu Tian, just now a naked woman directly brought Dongfang Yuer away. Guan Yanxin sat on the bed and cried loudly. Just a moment ago, Dongfang Yuer was still consoling herself, and suddenly a naked woman suddenly appeared and asked who Dongfang Yuer was. Dongfang Yuer was quite honest and said that she was the one. Just as she finished speaking, she was brought away by Brett. Absolute Heaven's complexion was very ugly. Currently, Dongfang Yuer had risen to a more important position in Absolute Heaven's eyes. He never expected that Brett would directly rush here and take Yuer away. Zhu Tian, think of a way to save Yuer. Guan Yanxin had received too many blows today, and she couldn't take it anymore and fainted. Absolute Heaven examined Xiao Chen's body. Xiao Chen only had a deficiency in his qi and was not a big deal. He would be fine as long as he replenished his qi in the future. Yihua, who was outside the door, let out a sigh of relief. All of you are making me worry. My subordinate actually kidnapped my subordinate's wife. What is going on? Wasn't this just *T? Yihua sensed Brett's aura. Unexpectedly, Brett was intentionally hiding his aura. It seems like Brett is determined to make Zhu Tian regret his actions. Your Honor. Zhu Tian arrived in front of Yihua and said while cupping his hands. His connection with Dongfang Yuan had been cut off by Brett, and he was completely unable to locate Dongfang Yuan. Zhu Tian, you don't have to be too anxious. After all, Brett is a woman, and she won't do anything to Dongfang Yuan. After all, she doesn't have the ability to do that. Yihua said faintly. Zhu Tian said gravely. Your Honor, Brett will abuse Yuer. I am very clear about Brett. That was indeed true. Brett loved to abuse captives, and it was the kind of abuse that a queen would abuse captives. I will think of a way. Yihua said gravely. Thank you, Your Honor. Put aside the mission that you are currently working on first. Let's find Brett and Dongfang Yuan first. Yihua said coldly. This Brett is becoming more and more outrageous. This time, I have to give her a severe punishment. Zhu Tian felt touched, and he bowed down. Thank you, Your Honor, for understanding. I will be leaving first. Take good care of this Guan Yanxin. It isn't easy for her to do so. Subordinate thanks Your Honor on behalf of Guan Yanxin. Yihua nodded his head, then disappeared from the bedroom. Right now Zhu Tian appeared to be very heavy. Brett is truly insane. She is capable of doing anything. Doesn't she know that doing something like that would anger his honor? Brett also threw caution to the wind. Even if his honor wants to punish me, I will make Ju Tian regret his actions. Yi Hua returned to the bedroom, and coincidentally, Qingye also returned. Yi Hua, where did you go just now? Qingye poured a cup of water, and asked curiously. Yi Hua let out a sigh. A small matter happened on my side. How is the situation at Voidless Realm? Guan family was exterminated in a single night, and the disappearance of the longevity fruit caused all of the big families to become restless. There are also those powers that are hiding in the dark. In any case, everyone wants to obtain the longevity fruit right now, so they are using morality to blackmail us. Qingye shook her head. This is too scary, to actually use morality to attack us. Do you have any countermeasures? Qingye shook her head. Baiji is currently extremely busy. On one hand, I have to find the culprit, and on the other hand, I have to calm down all of the big families. Leave the matter of the culprit to me. You all should properly deal with those greedy people. Qingye smiled sweetly, then hugged onto her husband tightly and buried her head onto Yi Hua's firm chest. Hubby, you are the best. Someone came to cause trouble. How can I let you all suffer a loss? Yi Hua lightly caressed onto Qingye's back and said coldly. Qingye was elated and asked curiously, what do you mean by small matter just now? Brett and Ju Tian fell out. Yi Hua laughed bitterly. Did they really break up? In actuality, both Qingye and Donghuang Baiji had guessed it before, and both of them felt that the possibility of Donghuang Baiji falling out with Donghuang Baiji was very high. And Brett has captured Dongfang Yu. He wants to make absolute heaven regret it. What? Qingye was stupefied. How is this a small matter? This is obviously a big matter. Don't worry about us then, quickly deal with this matter first. Qingye said hurriedly. Qingye was still very considerate towards Yi Hua. Yi Hua said faintly, it's fine, I have a lot of people on my side. It will be fine if we split up and take care of things. Brett is actually a pitiful woman. Don't make things difficult for her. Yi Hua said in a low voice. You don't have to worry about this, I have my own plans. Alright then, I will be returning to Voidless Realm first. For the next few days, Baiji and I will not be able to accompany you. Qingye kissed Yi Hua and said with a slight smile. In the future, I'll calculate it all together. You're dead. After Qingye left, Yi Hua walked towards the office, and coincidentally, Yi Zizi came out from the office. Your Honor, did they quarrel? Yi Zizi asked curiously. Go and do your homework, you don't have to worry about these things. Ba. Yi Zizi made a face, then went downstairs to get some spicy gluten. Sitting on the sofa in the office, Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Very quickly, Lai Gu came to report. Your Honor, subordinate has finished investigating. Take a look. Yi Hua said faintly. Chapter 485. Looking at those corpses, Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows. Your Honor, the other party is quite strong. Lai Gu said. To actually be able to use the sealing technique to seal off the entire Guan family, a large group of masked black-clothed men began massacring the entire Guan family. However, Yi Hua was also able to see their boss. This should be the perspective of Guan family's patriarch. Guan family's patriarch, 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 Guan family's face could not be seen. Lai Gu, what kind of technique is this blood pool forbidden technique? This subordinate does not know. Yi Hua saw that the family head took out a red shard and handed it over to the boss, trying to beg for his life. However, it seemed like the boss wouldn't let him live at all. Sure enough, in order to survive, the family head spilled out Voidless Realm's secret. Yi Zizi's conjecture was right. It was actually true. Your Honor, these people don't seem to be targeting us. Lai Gu said respectfully. Oh, tell me about it. Yi Hua laughed lightly. When did this Lai Gu know how to use his brain? Didn't he always use his lower body to think about problems? Lai Gu appeared to be very serious. In actuality, he had already received the news an hour ago. As for why Lai Gu did not appear, it was because Lai Gu went to cheat. Lai Gu hurriedly went back and asked his 3 wives. To be honest, Lai Gu's 3 wives are all intelligent. After analyzing for an hour, he finally came to a conclusion. Although he didn't know if it was correct or not, at least it was possible. Isn't this Lai Gu trying to claim credit for himself? Your Honor, these people's goal is that blood pool forbidden technique, and as for the longevity fruit, I only obtained the information by chance. Then why did they spread it out? Yi Hua asked. A diversion. The corner of Lai Gu's mouth began to rise upwards. This is the conclusion that the 3 wives came up with. Furthermore, this is an idiom, and it is able to encompass the entire purpose of this matter. As expected, after Yi Hua heard it, he was startled and said, Lai Gu, you did well. Hearing his honor's praise, Lai Gu nearly revealed his true form. I am truly so excited. Go on. Continue. Anything else? Lai Gu immediately went into a daze. My wives didn't teach me about the follow-up either. What happened? At this group of people they just want to. Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. When did this Lai Gu learn to keep me in suspense? In the end, it's still my appetite that's being whetted. Does it want to be stewed by me? That's right. When Lai Gu saw his honor's gaze, he immediately got a fright. His honor is definitely thinking about how to stew me. They want to use this kind of method to deceive others and make everyone's attention be placed on voidless realm. Then, they will be able to do whatever they want to do. Lai Gu said everything in one breath. Hearing Lai Gu's explanation, Yi Hua slightly leaned back and leaned onto the sofa. This is a bit possible. He used the matter of the longevity fruit to divert everyone's attention while he quietly worked on the side. After all, from their attitude, it seemed that they were after the blood pool forbidden technique from the beginning, not the longevity fruit. Your speculation is not bad. Yi Hua said gravely. Lai Gu was delighted. I didn't expect that the nonsense that I spouted would actually be acknowledged by his honor. I am really lucky today. Thank you for your praise, your honor. Go look for Brett's whereabouts. She had a falling out with Absolute Heaven, and even captured Dongfang Yu. Brett captured Dongfang Yu. Wouldn't Absolute Heaven explode from anger? Lai Gu cried out in astonishment. After all, Absolute Heaven would come to teach Lai Gu from time to time. And Lai Gu was very generous and imparted all of his martial arts to Absolute Heaven without holding anything back. Let's find her first. Yi Hua decided that after finding Brett, he would first put her under house arrest in a bar and let her sober up. This Absolute Heaven has already said it so clearly, why can't I let go of her? Brett naturally couldn't let go of Absolute Heaven. I have loved Absolute Heaven alone for hundreds of years. Who would be able to endure Absolute Heaven's sudden love? Not killing Dongfang Yu, and Guan Yanxin on the spot was already giving Absolute Heaven a lot of face. However, Brett kidnapped Dongfang Yu, and brought her to a very cold place. North Pole. At this very moment, Dongfang Yu, was wearing a thin summer dress and was sitting on the cold surface of the ice. The surrounding was a world of ice and snow, and pieces of ice were floating on the surface of the sea. From time to time, a bone-piercing cold wind would blow over, causing Dongfang Yu, to tightly hug onto her legs. Her entire body was trembling, and even her lips were trembling. On the other hand, Brett was completely naked as he stood in front of Dongfang Yu, and looked down at the weak and small woman in front of him. I completely can't understand why Absolute Heaven would like this kind of woman. Other than having a weak and delicate appearance, what other use does she have? I can kill her with just a light touch. Weak to the point that it makes one's hair stand on end. However, it was precisely this kind of woman who didn't beg for mercy even after being captured until now, and had only tightly hugged onto me to keep myself warm. However, it was precisely this kind of action that caused Brett to become even angrier. Why aren't you begging for mercy? If you were to beg for mercy, I would feel comfortable in my heart. You are the one who snatched away my man, and you are still acting so righteous. Do you know who I am? Brett questioned coldly. Dongfang Er's personality was just like this, using silence to resist against your violence. Speak. Brett grabbed onto Dongfang Er's chin, and Dongfang Er just looked at Brett without saying a word. Dongfang Er's silence caused Brett to become even angrier, and he really wanted to crush her throat. However, in the end, Brett still endured it. Brett ruthlessly flung Dongfang Er, and the weak and small Dongfang Er fell onto the ice surface. Following which, Brett curled up her body. This woman definitely wanted to capture me to threaten absolute heaven. This way, it would be better for her to die, and absolute heaven would not be threatened, nor would he be injured. Time passed by minute, and the cold wind became stronger and stronger. Dongfang Er was simply unable to endure this kind of cold, and a thin layer of ice gradually appeared on her body. Her hands and feet became stiff, and her consciousness also started to become blurry. Absolute heaven's figure involuntarily appeared in her mind, revealing a shallow smile. Meanwhile, when Brett saw Dongfang Er's smile, it was as if an ice-cold thorn had pierced into his heart. This damned woman is actually thinking of my man at the moment of her death. If I let her die just like this, it would truly be letting her off lightly. Grabbing onto Dongfang Er, he disappeared from this cold world. After an unknown amount of time, Dongfang Er opened her beautiful eyes and looked around her surroundings. Am I still in a hotel? I still have a blanket on me. Did absolute heaven come to save me? Just when Dongfang Er thought that she had been saved, the sound of high heels rang out. When she saw the tall and slender Brett appear, Dongfang Er tightly hugged the blanket. Brett was wearing an exquisite long skirt, which set off that perfect figure of hers. It was simply explosively sexy. Moreover, Brett, who was wearing high heels, was at least 1.88 meters tall. Compared to Dongfang Er, who was only 1.65 meters tall, Brett looked like a female giant. Chapter 486. Dongfang Er, who was grabbing the blanket with both hands, was indeed very afraid, but after hearing Brett's words, she immediately let go and pretended not to be afraid and continued to remain silent. After a long time, Brett said indifferently, "Absolute heaven told me before that he doesn't like women." This sentence made Dongfang Er very surprised. This beautiful and sexy woman knew absolute heaven. What was going on? You know absolute heaven? Dongfang Er finally spoke. The tone of the two women were different. One was overflowing with domineering aura, the other was extremely delicate. Brett glanced at Dongfang Er and said solemnly, "I know him in the year 838. Obviously, Dongfang Er was once again shocked. They had actually been together for so long. Then we separated for 5 years. That absolute heaven who never liked women actually had you guys." Brett's tone gradually emitted a cold killing intent. "You also like absolute heaven?" Dongfang Er asked. "Yes. I liked him for more than 800 years, he rejected me for more than 800 years, but this time he rejected me for you guys. I can't stand it, I want to take revenge on him. Make him regret it." Dongfang Er had never heard absolute heaven mention this before, but she felt that this woman was also very pitiful. Brett noticed Dongfang Er's pitiful gaze and said coldly, "Put away that lowly gaze of yours. Actually, you can have a good talk with absolute heaven." Dongfang Er said delicately with a comforting tone. "Talk. Can't talk anymore. Do you know why I caught you?" Dongfang Er shook her head. "Because he said that you are gentler than me." Brett clenched her fist. Absolute heaven actually disliked her for not being gentle enough. "Really?" Dongfang Er asked reflexively, because when she was together with absolute heaven had never said anything good about her. Brett was angered to the point of laughing. This weak woman was actually showing off in front of him. Brett slowly stood up and pulled down the zipper on the back of her skirt, completely exposing her body to the air. Even Dongfang Er couldn't help but sigh, it was really sexy. "What are you doing?" When a woman stripped naked in front of another woman, Dongfang Er was a little afraid. Brett sneered. "What am I doing? Doesn't absolute heaven like you? Then I will ruthlessly sully you." And I will also film it and send it to him. Sure enough, there was a mobile phone at the end of the bed. Dongfang Yuaner hadn't noticed it just now. You. Don't come over. Dongfang Yuan was afraid at this moment, and like a frightened rabbit, she shrunk back. But how could Dongfang Yuan be Brett's opponent? She was directly pressed down by Brett's body, unable to move. I want absolute heaven to see how his woman enjoys pleasure under me, Brett said with a sneer. Soon after, he tore apart Dongfang Yuer's clothes. Don't be like this. Dongfang Yuer's tone wasn't able to form any threat at all, and it would only make the bad guy even more excited, just like the current Brett. I seem to have discovered why absolute heaven would like a woman like you. He likes your powerless expression. Brett could not help but admit that he understood absolute heaven very well. You. Dongfang Yuaner's beautiful eyes opened wide. I was forcefully kissed by Ju Tian. I am no longer pure. I have done something that let Ju Tian down. No, she is just a woman. She doesn't have any. Just when Dongfang Yuaner was rejoicing, a pair of black wings stretched out from Brett's pure white back, bringing with it death within its beauty. However, this was not the important point. The important point was that there were 4 feeler-like things on the 2 sides of the wings. 2 of the black feelers could be seen immediately drilling into the blanket, and Dongfang Yuaner's beautiful eyes opened wide as she let out a miserable cry. She couldn't help but grab onto Brett's ears with both of her hands. The most sensitive part of elves were their long ears, and after being grabbed by Dongfang Yuaner, Brett let out an alluring moan. Immediately, the scene was extremely explosive. This was a feast for the eyes. So it can be played like this. Dongfang Yuaner, who was an ordinary person, fainted in just a short while. Brett stood up with his face and ears red. Picking up the phone that was placed at the end of the bed, Brett took a look at the video. Not bad. I contacted Absolute Heaven using the method of money. And when Absolute Heaven, who didn't have any clues, heard Brett's voice, he immediately became excited. Brett, if you have any problems, come at me. Don't hurt Dongfang Yuan. Just because of what you said, I will properly torture her. You can be at ease, I won't kill her. You. Brett, we have been together for 800 plus years. Is there a need for you to do this? Absolute Heaven. Then how did you treat me? It is impossible for us to be together. Fine. Impossible. Let me show you something good. Add me on WeChat. Absolute Heaven's expression sunk. Brett, you are abusing your. That's right. I am abusing her using a man's method. You. After adding Absolute Heaven's WeChat, Brett immediately sent the video over, and even said that he would continuously update the video. Meanwhile, Absolute Heaven looked blankly at the video on the phone, and the voice that was transmitted from the phone. His entire mind was stupefied. This Brett actually cuckolded me. Bang. The phone was directly smashed into pieces by Absolute Heaven. I didn't expect that Brett would actually use this kind of method to take revenge on me. Brett simply has no bottom line. Meanwhile, Brett was very satisfied, because he felt that Absolute Heaven would definitely be angered to death right now. However, it is truly a pity that I won't be able to enjoy Absolute Heaven's appearance when he is angry. Looking at Dongfang Yuaner, who had already fainted on the bed, the wings on Brett's back once again appeared, and Brett continued to display the revenge of a woman. From today onwards, Absolute Heaven would receive a feather arrow every day, and on the feather arrow was a phone, causing Absolute Heaven to burn with anger. The main thing was that Dongfang Yuaner was very resistant at the start, but gradually, she changed. No matter how much Dongfang Yuaner resisted, a blush appeared on that delicate and pretty face of Brett's. Meanwhile, Brett even boldly said, "Your woman will become my woman." This truly caused Absolute Heaven to explode. This move of Brett's was indeed very useful. On the luxurious big bed, Brett hugged onto Dongfang Yuaner, who was on the verge of death. Looking at the phone at the end of the bed, a smile appeared on Brett's face. Say hello to Absolute Heaven. After finished speaking, Brett even kissed onto Dongfang Yuaner's lips. Meanwhile, Dongfang Yuaner powerlessly laid beside Brett. Her entire body didn't have any strength left. Absolute Heaven. Let me tell you, Dongfang Yuaner is mine now. She doesn't like you anymore. The one she likes right now is me. After Absolute Heaven saw the latest video, he was simply unable to endure it. Brett is completely a pervert. Chapter 487. However, Absolute Heaven was prepared to report Brett's evil deeds, which made one's hair stand on end. Yihua sat on the sofa in his office and listened to the report that came from Absolute Heaven. Yihua took a deep puff of his cigarette. Your Honor, Brett has already become twisted. What could Yihua possibly do? Right now he couldn't even find the person that was in the room. You shouldn't have provoked Brett that day. Yihua said gravely. When this woman goes crazy, she basically doesn't care about the consequences at all, let alone one of the 7 sins, Brett. On that day, Absolute Heaven had been forced into a corner by Brett, and he had wanted to cut the Gordian knot. In the end, however, he had thoroughly angered Brett. It's already fortunate that Dongfang Yuer is fine now. But Brett tortures her every day. This subordinate can't stand it anymore. Yihua went silent for a moment, then said faintly, think of a way to lure Brett out. Deceive. Absolute Heaven was stunned. This is the only way for you to save Dongfang Yu. In actuality, Yihua had been thinking about it for a few days. Only Absolute Heaven would be able to lure Brett out. If not, even if Brett wanted to hide, no one would be able to find him. Zhu Tian became silent. After thinking for a long while, Zhu Tian said gravely, Your Honor, if we really lied to Brett, I'm afraid that she, in truth, Absolute Heaven also could not bear to do so. After all, they had lived together for so long. You decide for yourself. Yihua was also at his wit's end. This matter was too troublesome. After struggling for a long time, Absolute Heaven finally nodded his head. Looking at Zhu Tian leaving, Yihua was very vexed. I will slowly enlighten Brett in the future. Revenge breeds revenge. When will it ever end? After returning home, Absolute Heaven waited for Brett to contact him. After a day, Brett finally contacted him. Brett's sweet voice rang in his mind. Absolute Heaven, what do you think? I said that I would make you regret it. Brett, you did it. Absolute Heaven said in a deep voice. Brett was stunned. He did not expect that Absolute Heaven would admit defeat so quickly. For a moment, Brett was at a loss for words. Come back. You've already taken revenge on me, so don't hurt anyone else. Feeling heartache? Don't worry, I will treat you well. Brett, I'm willing to marry you and give up both of them. Zhu Tian's words caused Brett's pupils to shrink, and he became so excited that he stood up. Is what you said true? And His Honor has agreed as well. In order to dispel Brett's misgivings, Zhu Tian had no choice but to bring up His Honor. In Brett's heart, His Honor would never lie to her. His Honor has agreed. That's great. Brett felt that this was too sudden. He sat down on the ground and started bawling. After waiting for more than 800 years, this moment had finally come. Zhu Tian let out a sigh of relief. I'll wait for you at home. After that, the two of them ended the call. Absolute Heaven sat on a chair in the hall, his mood heavy. Was this really all right? But it couldn't go on like this. After waiting for nearly 2 hours, Absolute Heaven saw the space before him distort. It's here. Brett was wearing a fiery red dress with a V-neck. It was festive and sexy, and she was actually smiling. Absolute Heaven had never seen Brett smile before. However, other than Brett, Dongfang Yuaner's figure was nowhere to be seen, causing Absolute Heaven to feel slightly anxious. Absolute Heaven stood up and stared at Brett. Meanwhile, Brett was acting like a little girl, lowering his head bashfully. Are you really willing to marry me? Brett said in a low voice, not even daring to look straight at Absolute Heaven's gaze. The cold and fiery Brett in the past had suddenly changed. Absolute Heaven slowly walked to Brett's side, then carried Brett into his embrace. Hearing Absolute Heaven's permission, Brett cried again. She cried like a little child. I didn't wait for so long in vain, and now, the day has finally come. Absolute Heaven took a deep breath, then asked, Where's your? Brett's beautiful face stiffened, then she said faintly, I killed her. What? Absolute Heaven grabbed onto Brett's shoulders and questioned angrily. Looking at Absolute Heaven's expression that was filled with so much pain that he wished he was dead, Brett's happiness was instantly trampled. What? Are you feeling heartache? Brett. You are crazy. Absolute Heaven shouted out angrily. I didn't expect that Brett would actually kill her. Absolute Heaven, didn't you say that you want to marry me? Why did you become like this after hearing that you are dead? Brett laughed. This laughter of Brett's was very miserable. Brett faintly felt that this was a scam. Your Honor, please come out. This was all planned by you guys, right? Brett said to the air. His heart was completely torn into pieces. Yihua's figure appeared beside Brett. Then he let out a deep breath. Brett, we are doing this for your own good. That miserable laughter caused Yihua and Absolute Heaven to feel very uncomfortable. In their memories, Brett had never acted like this before. Even when he killed his big sister with his own hands, Brett did not have any reaction at all. How do you two understand me? You two don't understand me at all. After finished speaking, a pair of black elf wings unfolded, and a green long blade condensed in Brett's hand. Yihua's gaze became serious, then shouted out coldly, Brett! A golden binding light immediately wrapped around Brett, but Brett's speed was even faster than Brett's. The left half of Brett's wing was cut off by Yihua, and soon after, Brett's wing was bound by Yihua. Cutting off one's wing was the cruelest method to deal with elves. According to legends, elves who had their wings cut off would never be able to reincarnate. Brett didn't want to see Absolute Heaven anymore in this life. Even in his next life, he didn't want to see Absolute Heaven anymore. Therefore, Brett used this wing to understand himself. The black wing that was dripping with blood fell onto the ground. Both Yihua and Absolute Heaven were stupefied. If Yihua was just a bit slower just now, Brett would have died just now, and he wouldn't even have the chance to reincarnate. Furthermore, how could an elf be able to endure the pain of a wing being cut off? Look at the current Brett. Although his face was pale, he didn't shout out in pain. Furthermore, to Brett, a wing being cut off was a great loss to his strength. If he wanted to recover, he would have to regrow his wing. Your Honor, please bring me away from here. I don't want to see him anymore. Brett returned back to his original appearance, but the feeling that he gave off was lifeless, as if he was an empty shell without a soul. Yihua picked up the wing that was cut off from the ground, seeing if he could find a way to reattach it back. Brett! Absolute Heaven couldn't help but shout out. Brett said coldly, Don't call me anymore. In the future, we will have nothing to do with each other anymore. After helping Brett up, Yihua patted onto Brett's shoulder. Just get over it. Don't do anything stupid. When Brett was leaving, Brett told Absolute Heaven about Dongfeng Yuer's location, and from then on, Brett broke off all ties with Yihua. Looking at the bloodstains on the ground, Absolute Heaven seemed to be at a loss, not knowing what to do. After returning to Leisure Bar, Brett immediately collapsed. Brett hugged onto his honor and cried bitterly. Yihua let out a sigh and consoled Brett. You will feel better after you cry, don't be too sad. Chapter 488. Inside the bar. Right now, Brett was wailing loudly. It was simply a tragic scene. Even Qing Yutong, who was upstairs, noticed it, and she walked down to take a look at the situation. Brother-in-law, what's going on? Qing Yutong was stupefied. Seeing such a situation, her first reaction was that brother-in-law is done for. It is definitely his former lover. After this reunion, Qing Yutong couldn't help but cry tears of joy. Luckily, she didn't bring a child with her. If not, brother-in-law would definitely be done for. However, this seems to be no different from being done for. Your Honor, why did you lie to me as well? Brett used a small fist and hammered on Qing Yutong's chest. This caused Qing Yutong's mouth to turn into an O. Brother-in-law lied to another girl again. Seeing Qing Yutong's expression, Yihua said faintly, Stop your imagination. That brother-in-law, this is you as well? This is Brett. You saw him during the meeting that day, he is that shorty. Yihua said gravely. It is very annoying for subordinates to have conflicts with each other. Qing Yutong was startled and mumbled. He matured so quickly. Alright, go and guide her properly, she is hurt by love. Yihua felt that only women would be able to comfort Brett. Qin Yutong patted on her chest. Leave it to me. Qin Yutong could be seen sitting beside Brett and saying earnestly, there is not a single man who is good. Yihua. Brett left his honor's embrace and hugged onto Qin Yutong. You are right, there is not a single man who is good. Yihua. Letting Qin Yutong comfort me is a wrong choice. Yihua picked up the broken wing at the side. The wing is showing signs of withering. If I continue to delay it, I am afraid that I won't be able to reattach it. Walking to Brett's back, Yihua said faintly, stretch out the wing. Towards his honor's command, Brett obediently took out the wing on his back. The position of the wing that was broken was a ghastly sight. Yihua wrinkled his brows and took out a bottle of medicine from his ring. Brother-in-law, is that glue? Qin Yutong, can you not speak? Yihua glared at Qin Yutong. The latter pouted her mouth. Brother-in-law is very fierce. The holy liquid that Yihua was holding in his hand possessed a powerful recovery ability. Of course, it was something that he snatched from an overlord. As for whether it would be effective or not, Yihua had no idea. Thus he felt that he should still give it a try. Xiaochen placed the broken wing over the wound and dripped some holy liquid on it. The wound gave off a blue light and a strong fragrance. Yihua paused for a moment, then a ray of white light shot out from his palm. And just like a white laser, the white light was repairing the broken wing. Ah! The intense pain caused Brett to scream. This repair was even more painful than cutting. While treating the wound, Yihua was very serious. After all, it was his subordinate who got injured. However, only they could injure themselves. Ooh. Yihua let out a breath. I am finally done. Right now, all I have to do is to properly recuperate. Brother-in-law, she fainted. The fact that Brett, one of the 7 deadly sins, fainted from the pain showed how terrifying this repair was. Let her rest. After saying that, he placed a restriction on Brett to prevent her from running around again. All right. Sitting at the side of the bar, Yihua pinched the bridge of his nose. The problem can be considered to have been solved. However, the relationship between Zhu Tian and Brett could be considered to have completely collapsed. This was not a good thing for the entire team. This Zhu Tian is also a stubborn person. I have already taken in 2 women, so why isn't he willing to marry Brett? To think that others would even seek death for you. From this, it can be seen how deep your love is. However, how deep your love was back then. How deep your hatred is right now. Baiyu Zhu Tian's figure appeared beside Yihua. Your Honor. Yihua did not say anything and only sighed. Your Honor, how is Brett? Zhu Tian asked with concern. She is fine now. That's good. Zhu Tian let out a breath of relief. Just now, when he saw Brett actually committing suicide, he was truly frightened. Yihua asked gravely. Didn't you dislike her? Why are you asking about this now? Your Honor, please forgive me. Zhu Tian lowered his head and apologized. I shouldn't have let you take on that mission. If Yihua knew that such a thing would happen, he definitely wouldn't have let Zhu Tian take on that mission. And you still say that you have the brains to take on the mission? Zhu Tian lowered his head and remained silent. He was feeling very complicated in his heart. When he thought about how Brett looked like just now, he felt very uncomfortable. Yihua lit up a stick of cigarette. Forget it, you can go back first. Don't worry about the matters here anymore. Thank you, Your Honor, for your magnanimity. Zhu Tian bowed and said. Let's see how the 2 of you are going to clean up this mess. Yihua shouted coldly, then disappeared from the bar. Zhu Tian straightened his body and looked towards the 2nd floor, then let out a sigh and disappeared from Leisure Bar. Right now, Yihua had arrived at Voidless Realm. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji hadn't returned to Voidless Realm for a few days, so Yihua decided to come here to take a look. Last time, I directed a big show here, and I haven't even had the chance to enjoy it yet. Yihua's appearance caused a lot of people to be shocked, but after knowing that he was the Empress's husband, everyone greeted him respectfully. After all, the Empress's husband had saved them before. Meanwhile, Yihua walked with the footsteps of a big shot and nodded his head slightly. However, one mustn't learn this kind of footsteps. It is very easy for one to get beaten up. There was a person who walked with this kind of footsteps, and the grass on his grave was already 2 meters tall. When the people from Voidless Realm saw that the Empress's husband had such an imposing manner, they were also extremely happy. As expected, the Empress's husband is very powerful. Yihua directly walked towards the newly built palace. Along the way, no one stopped him, and even the guards respectfully lowered their heads to greet Yihua. Towards such a scene, Yihua appeared to be very natural. He walked into the palace from the outer wall. Right now, Donghuang Baiji and Qinya were currently having a meeting with the military officers, discussing how to deal with the current situation. Yihua directly walked into the meeting just like that, and with a single glance, he saw his woman sitting on an exquisite throne. The woman was wearing a purplish golden gown, and a crown on her head. This makeup is not bad. Next time, if I let Baiji dress like this, it should be very exciting. Qinya sat a bit below Donghuang Baiji, and when the two women saw their husband walking in, the corner of their mouths twitched. Everyone at the scene recognized Yihua, and they respectfully shouted out, "Lord Yi." The Empress's husband didn't have a title, and normally, he would just be called by his surname, and the word Lord would be added at the back to show respect. Yihua waved his hand and walked towards the throne. Donghuang Baiji slowly stood up, and was planning to give up her seat to her husband. However, she was stopped by Yihua's gaze. No matter what, this is my woman's territory. I naturally have to give her face. I, the Supreme Overlord, will not do those things that will make my woman lose face. A trace of a heartwarming smile appeared on Donghuang Baiji's face. Yihua is still very considerate towards me. After being together for a long time, a husband and wife would be able to understand each other's words and actions. Men, give this Empress husband a seat of honor. Donghuang Baiji shouted out gravely. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.